Welcome back to the Culture Crusade, and we are joined by a special guest, Chuck. How are you, mate? Chuck Dixon.
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Oh, good to hear. Hey, Chuck, do you want to quickly introduce yourself to those who might not know who you are? Because you're a bit of a legend, mate.
Yeah, I'm Chuck Dixon. I'm a prolific comic book writer. I've been doing this for almost 40 years. Worked on Batman, Punisher, SpongeBob SquarePants, Conan the Barbarian, The Simpsons, just about everything. I've written thousands and thousands of comics and about 36 novels.
Oh, that is awesome. Thank you, man. Thank you for joining us. And one of the things that you've worked on, as well as Mike, as it happens to be, you worked on the Wheel of Time graphic novel. So what was your involvement with that?
What was my what with that?
What was your involvement with the Wheel of Time graphic novel?
It was when the Dable brothers had the license and they reached out, they needed a writer, and gave me the assignment because I got it because I had done a adaptation of J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit, so they thought I might be a good fit for this. I have to say Robert Jordan is not J.R.R. Tolkien. It was one of the most difficult comic assignments I've ever had because
really
the book I started with, so very little happened in it visually. I'm not going to critique the books, but his books are not comic book friendly for adaptation.
I think that's actually really fair. One of the things I love about the books is the kind of slow pace and the methodic detail he gives to the world. And there's not a lot of action in a lot of scenes where he's kind of slows it down and just talks about, the characters in the village and their interactions with each other and what they happened here. And so I can actually really understand what you're saying there.
Yeah, the first chapter of the first book I did was two women watching two other women read. That was the whole chapter.
I had to draw this.
Make for good comics. He had to draw it.
And of course, yes, because I was going to mention Mike was also an artist on the Wheel of Time graphic novel.
I can't find it. I can't find the copy of it, but I have I have most of the original pages because they're like, it's just people standing around.
Yeah.
Although, the intro double page spreads of like the wars and the friggin' the desolate land and all that, those are good looking pages, but I
had to squeeze them out of like someone would talk about, the battle of whatever, and it might be 3 sentences about it. I was okay. Here I go. I did 5 pages of battle scenes that I had to completely make up just to get something going visually for you to draw.
Yep.
I mean, so that is actually a very fair observation, but it is one of the things that gives Wheel of Time its own type of charm. Now, I understand how it's not for everyone, but I've even seen some people in the chat saying they don't like Wheel of Time, the book series. Now, to call it objectively bad, I think is missing the mark because we're dealing with subjective kind of taste and interpretation here.
It's just a slog.
Well, if you don't like that style of writing, for me, who just loves world building, all those fine details made the world seem so rich and real and alive. And I loved it. And I think it actually works particularly well in audiobook format, where you can just sit back and just listen to this world be depicted. And so for people who like that, well, any number of things. Like I really got into Wheel of Time, went big through audiobook, and I was able to just put it on while I was at work. And I was doing a monotonous task at work and just let it play in the background. And I just got immersed in the story. I'm a big fan of the books, got them all there. And when Wheel of Time was being adapted to a TV show, I was interested, and then greatly disappointed by season 1. Oh my gosh. And when season 1 came out, there was a lot of interest in, okay, how's it going to go? A lot of the fans are in it. And what was kind of shocking about season 1, review experience was the insane amount of damage control that was being fielded across the internet to protect this show. On Reddit specifically, any negative post on all the main Wheel of Time, Reddits about the show were deleted and you were banned. And then, like, the group of fans who were really upset with the show made a subreddit called the White Cloaks, which is a reference to an in-world group of you might know, in the book. And that Reddit is where a lot of the people who were upset with the show congregated, and Reddit eventually ended up deleting that subreddit entirely. Right? It was crazy. And
this is the show Jeff Bezos funded, right?
This is an Amazon show. This is another one of those shows where they wanted to kind of be the next Game of Thrones. And they didn't throw as much money into it as Rings of Power, but they've thrown a lot of money into it. And they're desperate. They're so desperate to make this look like this prestigious, grand, epic fantasy to attract people to Amazon. And it's really interesting to see some of the tactics that they've been using for season 3 kind of repeat themselves, but they're running like uphill, because season 1 was such a massive disappointment that a lot of the fans just completely checked out. My distaste and displeasure for season 1 is hard to express.
Did you watch any of that, Chuck?
No. A real-time show?
Yeah.
No.
You've saved it. So.
I think I watched maybe half of the first season.
Well, the main characters of real time are 3 male characters: Rand, Perrin, and Matt. And in season 3, they basically emasculated them. They lost all their courage. They became weak cowards. They became second fiddles to all the female characters. The female characters became the main, lead. And if you see all the promotional stuff all the time, it's the female character is usually first and foremost, and especially Moraine. They made this the Moraine show. It's all about the character Moraine.
I, for one, am shocked. I mean, this is unheard of.
I know, right?
Anything like this before.
This
Where
is
were they coming
groundbreaking
from?
stuff.
What were their thoughts? I mean, why did this happen?
Exactly. Like it is. They turned it into the most woke, progressive BS slop, bastardizing the source material, and the show becomes barely watchable. It's an absolute complete mess. And one of the things that pissed me off so much about the first season, and we'll get to the third season and some of the commentary around it, but this is a bit of a recap, right? Is that they said, look, the first book is pretty big, so we have to condense things. We can't cover everything. We have to cut some things out because it's just too big. And so you're not going to get everything. And I was like, okay, well, look, that's a fair enough statement. And then when it comes to like episode 5, right, there is an entire episode, and not only episode 5, multiple things where the showrunner has just created bullcrap. I made up, instead of adapting the source material, he's cut things from the book to inject his own kind of, stories and characters and bullcrap because he thinks he can do a better job than,
there's always room for lesbians. So
what? Well, the episode I'm talking about is an interesting one, because it's about a straight, he's a warder, and the warders, they're the ones who protect the Aes Sedai, right? His Aes Sedai has died, and he's going to be adopted or become bonded to another Aes Sedai who has 2 other warders who are gay. And he's basically contemplating that if I join these others group, he's probably going to have some gay sex. And he says, I've never been with a man before. And this is all made up. This is not in the book, right? This is stuff they injected into it. But there is a really odd kind of narrative. I'm not sure what they were meaning by this, but the warder chooses to commit suicide instead of joining the gay couple. Don't know what he was meaning by that. Obviously, that's not what they meant, but there's certainly a subtext that you can read into it.
I think so often in all of these shows, they'll say, well, we have to have this, gay, lesbian, trans material, but we don't necessarily have to give it to them the way they want it. I mean, how many times do you see a gay or lesbian character and it's like, okay, we're representing that community, and then they turn out to be a predator, a sexual predator. I mean, it happens over and over and over again. So they can basically say, look, we gave you what you asked for, but, sorry if you didn't like the way we presented it.
Well, there's that. Now, there's a bit more to the reasons why they are so adamant in pushing.
Yeah, if you think about it, this goes all the way
LGBT
back to Silence of the Lambs. They were
Yeah.
Well,
True.
that episode pissed me off so much because it showed that they were completely full of it. Like all they were saying is that, oh, we have to cut things because there's not enough room. It's like you just made an entire episode of filler nonsense crap that's completely irrelevant to the larger plot about characters we don't care about, that you literally supplanted story and book material to do your own thing. And it really came off as this narcissistic kind of expression of the creator thinking that, no, I've got to put my own stamp on this.
Well, it makes me wonder how much power the whole BlackRock DEI thing has when you can even force this kind of bullcrap into something funded by the richest man in the world, or the second richest man in the world. You know?
Well, there's that as well. Now, there is an interesting comment that I think is very revealing about the show, and this is by the showrunner.
Comment, Chuck. Your cup. You just reminding me of that Michael Myers thing. I ordered the small cappuccino.
Yeah, hold it up for even better effect.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, this tweet I think is very revealing. And I'll get to it. I want to build up to it because there is a pattern of behavior that confirms that this is not a joke. All right. This isn't this being like, this is a mask off kind of moment, which reveals this guy's mindset. Because once, as I mentioned, they emasculate the male characters. They're complete jokes in the show. You can't have a man save a woman anymore. That's problematic. And so they went out of their way to rewrite the plot to avoid that. But not only that, like the culmination of season 2 is one of the most despicable things I've seen in terms of just their bastardization of the source material, where in the original, in the books, right, Rand goes to save Egwene. He realizes that she's, captured, and then he runs into the Shonshen, and there's this fighting, and then he ends up fighting one of the Forsaken, and there's this big prophecy kind of thing because their battle ends up being, shown in the heavens, and everyone sees it, and it's this big powerful moment where Rand takes on he takes on a blade master. He proves that he's a blade master himself, and then he fights with the Forsaken, and he takes this horrible hit, and he does it. And then, of course, the other guys like Matt and Perrin, Matt ends up blowing, the horn of Valir, and summoning the heroes, and they come in and they wipe out the Shonsher. And so the male characters are instrumental in saving the women, saving the day, and all that stuff. Really, really great in the books. In the show of season 2, not only do they not have Rand save anyone, Rand is this weak, pathetic character who gets defeated, and he needs to be saved by the female characters. Not once, not twice, 3 times. He gets saved consecutively 3 times by a new female character, one after another. And then the big sign in the heaven that proclaims him the Dragon Reborn is done by Moraine, and it robs the Rand of everything. And I could not believe that they would have the gall to do this. And it's just a disgusting insult to what the story was. And on top of that, it's a badly made show that's boring and nonsensical. And the characters are just awful. Because, of course, if you emasculate all the main characters and all the female characters are insufferable girl bosses, that's gonna be great. Everyone's gonna love that. But it's clear the audience that they want for this show is the LGBT woke crowd, the modern, the mythical modern audience, and middle-aged, middle-aged single women is the target audience, or if you swing the other direction. So
I couldn't watch this crap. I don't care if you paid me to be a YouTuber. I couldn't. I just couldn't.
Well, this is where we come to season 3, because I can't bring myself to watch season 3. My wife has watched it. She's told me about it, and it's just like, no, I'm done with this abomination of a show. But there are still some things to mention about season 3. But with all that kind of, background, this is the mentality of the showrunner. And so people were upset with what was happening with Wheel of Time, and of course fans, they will share their distaste for it. And he claimed that he got death threats from this. He's never shown them, and so I'm always very skeptical of the whole because oftentimes you can, like, when they actually show them, it was like one, and it's usually like a half-sided joke or something like that, where it's just nothing actual seriously threatening. But if it did happen, I condemn completely. But in terms of the negative feedback about people aggressing him, he doesn't say, look, it's not going to be for everyone, I'm just trying to do my best and everything like that. This was the showrunner's response, Rafe Judkins, to that negativity. So let me just share this. He says, "You are all very kind. I've dealt with them before, and there's truly only one way to respond. Turn their favorite characters gay. Because I can. This gentleman reaps what he sows. Perrin and Lan now gay for each other. Next homophobic death threat, Egwene and Days Congo gay." It's like, that's an interesting comment, Rafe. That kind of shows your respect to the source material. What it reveals is that he's not doing this for representation or anything like that. It's literally out of spite. Just to spite the critics, spite the people that are upset with the changes he's making. And so this is the person who is in charge of the Wheel of Time TV show. That's his
So Chuck, when you were writing an adaptation of the Wheel of Time, how would you have approached this sort of a thing?
Well, the thing is, Wheel of Time is not, exactly like it was written by Robert E. Howard. I mean, it was already pretty politically correct as it was written.
Yes.
Female characters are central to it. Male and female characters get equal time. I never got any sense that there was some overbearing ogre of a male character. I mean, to me, the characters weren't terribly macho to begin with. And to further emasculate them, I don't understand it. And yeah, it's out of spite, but it's also somewhere in some boardroom, this guy's earning points. He's scoring points by this kind of behavior. He's not getting audiences, but that's not what this guy's after, or the entire production team is after. They're just after some sort of brownie points for their side.
Which is crazy because eventually, they're going to run out of other people's money to do this.
Well, it's going to take a long time to run out of Bezos' money. But let me say,
that's true.
Because, Amazon is the only studio, the only one that isn't in deep debt right now. Everybody's in tens of billions of dollars worth of debt. So Amazon can basically do it. They can make any kind of crap they want. And they're not going to lose any money. And well, somebody will watch this. I mean, they're not going to get big numbers, but somebody will watch it.
There are people watching it. I want to comment on who is watching it. But sorry, Mike, what were you about to say?
I was just wondering because the guys that are doing all the the 1923 and the what's the one with Sylvester Stallone?
Tulsa Kings and Landman.
Those guys, they're doing all these pretty darn based shows on, was it through MTV or something like that?
Yeah, well, it's Paramount. Paramount funds all of them.
So is Paramount the bastion of not crazy in Hollywood, or what?
No, because Paramount is also tens of billions of dollars in debt because they went in heavy on DEI on a lot of their stuff. And I read recently where they wanted to basically expand on the tremendous success they're having with the Taylor Sheridan properties. Because not only do these things get lots of viewers, but they also sell tons of merchandise. So we're looking at multi-billion-dollar franchises here. So they announced they want to expand on this. And what did they do? They gave George Clooney a production agreement. Okay, so this is the kind of people you got in charge. What? They think that George Clooney getting a production agreement somehow will appeal to the audience that watches Mayor of Kingstown.
I think they missed the point.
They always miss the point. And what I have to say about Amazon is Amazon is structured differently than any of these other studios. There's basically 3 desks at Amazon Productions, and it's 3 people in charge. And depending on which desk your project falls on, it will either be woke or it will be based. Because remember, Amazon also does Reacher.
Yeah.
Yep.
Terminal List. I mean, Terminal List. I'm a right-wing extremist, and that show shocked the hell out of me. I was like, yeah, they may have gone a little too far here. So
I one of those desks, Jennifer Sulky.
well, yeah, that's it. And they don't. I don't think Bezos comes down from on high to tell them what to do. They're all basically surviving from success to success or failure to failure. That's why when people freaked out when the James Bond thing lands in Amazon, I was like, depending on who it goes to, I'm pretty optimistic they'll do a good job.
Well, Amazon has made the odd occasional thing that isn't terrible. You agree? I Terminal List, there's Reacher. I've enjoyed Invincible. The most recent season is actually
but that's Invincible is 1990s woke.
Kind of.
They're still basing it on the 1990s. Dude, freaking Kirkman is a left-wing woke dude, but this was 90s woke, right? So it still feels based by
well, you could even call the Wheel of Time a little bit that, like, I wouldn't call it like off the wall woke, but it certainly has all the female representation. It's a world where women are in charge. But one of the main kind of story through lines of Wheel of Time is a message that men and women need to work together and get along. Otherwise, the world is going to fall to absolute crap. Right. And they've completely abandoned that understanding. In actual fact, like Wheel of Time has some things that is downright problematic now. It enforces a gender binary by the very magic of the world. That men and women are so distinct and different that they can't even access the magic that the other can get. And the magic is actually kind of in line with more stereotypical male kind of characteristics. It's aggressive, it's powerful, and you have to fight it and battle with this magic to use it. Where the female side of the magic, you literally need to submit yourself to it to be able to control it. And there is a really subtle message there about male and female power, about women can get power, but they can't force it, interestingly enough. But if they kind of, submit to it and guide it, suddenly they can get incredible power. And that is literally baked into the core world building of Wheel of Time, which is one of the fundamental things that the show avoids like the plague. They do not want to mention at all Saidin or Saidar, the two halves of the power, because they're offended by it. And I just find it really interesting that even a book series that people could consider progressive for its time is ultra based now, so much so that it's too offensive to adapt properly in the modern day.
Yeah, I mean, it's not based at all to say that men and women are different. I mean, that was one of the things I thought was clever about the series. I mean, Jordan realized he's writing for a female audience as well as a male audience, because fantasy is something that's shared between the two genders, and he strikes that balance where the women, there's nothing contrived about the women's power, place, and role in the books. It's all very natural, and it stems from them being women. So, I mean, you would think this would be a perfect vehicle, just as it was. But no, because we have to deny the difference between the sexes. We're in fantasy land, real fantasy land. We're living in a fantasy land.
I don't want to derail this, but Chuck, were you at dinner with us with Robert Jordan? And
I never met him.
Okay. All right.
I would just hear third hand that what I was doing was okay. So
the hidden hand.
How many of the books did you adapt, Chuck?
I think maybe 3. I did 3? New Spring, and I did, I think, 2 more.
Yeah, I wasn't involved with the other ones.
Yeah. They kind of I got kind of weird there, and then it ended up at Dynamite, and I worked there for a little bit, but the page rates were so miserable. I was like, I can't do this. And I should say as a disclaimer, because we're discussing Amazon, there is a movie coming out in 2 weeks based on one of my novels, and it's produced by Amazon. So, it fell on the right desk, I should say.
Can we play the commercial? I'm looking forward to it. That's going to be the first movie that actually I'm going to go watch in a theater in a long time.
Oh, thank you. A lot of people I know are saying that. I appreciate it.
So which book is this?
It's Levon's Trade. It's part of a 12-book series.
Awesome.
It's a Jason Statham movie.
So, okay.
Yeah,
All
most
right.
people, when I say, "Hey, they're making a movie on one of my books," oh, all right, with Jason Statham's in it. What?
That's awesome. That's great to hear.
Yeah.
Now, with what you were saying about like Amazon being one of the few ones that aren't in debt, like it's because they're just propped up by the Amazon, machine. That the Prime shows, so many of them have lost insane amounts of money. The amount of money that they dropped on Rings of Power and the return that they're getting off of that is just
Isn't that like $1 billion?
oh, it's crazy. They've lost so much money
I think
like
it's
that.
a lot more than $1 billion.
Seriously?
But that
Yeah.
well, that's why these shows get to continue, because if they had to sail on their own merit and how much profit they're actually making, they would have been bankrupt by now. They got to be cancelled ages ago. But Wheel of Time is just now this dead corpse that Amazon is just dragging on season after season because they want to present it as this grand prestige, epic fantasy show. And that's what the mainstream media has been pushing with, especially season 3. If you look up Wheel of Time, you see all these, mainstream reviews glazing it, just like blowing smoke up its ass so much, saying it's the most incredible thing. It's like, no, I've seen season 1 and 2. Don't freaking give me this bull crap. My wife has watched episode 1, and people have been reporting how much of an abomination this bull crap is. But Amazon is playing damage control, desperate to try and present this as this, incredible show. And in terms of viewership, Gary, Nerdrotic Gary, had a really interesting experience where he was watching, I forget what show. It was like Reacher, I think. And it auto-played right after Reacher, straight into Wheel of Time. And he was like, no, get out of that, not watching that. And then he leaves and he comes back because he wants to watch Clarkson's Farm. And he looks at his screen and it says he watched each 3 released episodes of Wheel of Time, and he hadn't.
Wow.
And so Amazon is auto-playing it.
So this is like when Captain Marvel, all of the movie theaters were sold out, but they were empty.
Or when they run CNN at the airport.
Yes. Yep. And so I'm very interested if they're going to say, oh, it's got great viewership. And it's like Amazon counts. One of the things that with also it seems like Amazon counts auto plays on the home screen as a view as well. And so they are just pushing this false narrative that's really popular. I have not seen anyone talk about Wheel of Time season 3. Most people don't even know the show season 3 was released.
I was a little flabbergasted.
Yeah, it's been dead. So there is no cultural impact or interest in this show at all. And I really experienced that in my reviews for season 2. Because my reviews for season 2, barely one even cared. Like no one was even wanting to watch the reviews of season 2. That it's now effectively would be a waste of my time to review season 3 if the trend continues through the interest from season 1 to 2 now to 3, because you can't even get through the first 2 seasons. Who gives a crap about the last season unless they're one of these, kind of wine mum cat lady single people on Reddit, who love the show because of its representation. Like it can be abject crap, but because it ticks the right boxes, it's the greatest show ever made. And that's kind of the Reddit defenders of the show.
I just feel like, at some point the strong hand of the free market is going to have to push the Overton window back. Like the Taylor Sheridan stuff is popular, right? I mean, it's like we watched I don't know, Tulsa King and the other one with the what's his face? The oil man. Landman, yeah. And my wife just starts looking up other shows that Taylor Sheridan has done, and that's why we're watching like 1923, and it's like so there's this desire for even people like my wife's not super into the whole cultural thing, but it's like good shows, good morals and just based worldview. You just want more of it. Whereas this other stuff, yeah, they're having to force feed it into people's streams to get views. Eventually, the market has to see and has to shift. Well, and just override these pinheads making these decisions.
It has. It's why you're seeing there are more horror movies in production right now than ever because Hollywood needs to earn money, and they always turn to horror and they always turn to mid-budget action. You're starting to see now more mid-budget action films. When we get to the mid-budget comedy, we'll know it's all over. The DEI is over. Because they can't keep doing this. I mean, Amazon can keep doing it. They can make Wheel of Time season 15. I mean, they can keep doing it. But Warner's is in deep doo-doo. If this Superman movie doesn't perform, they are finished. Paramount, Columbia, all the rest are, they realize, they look at the balance sheet and went, wow, what did we do wrong here?
So Disney's even feeling the pinch at the moment. They've been, struggling and having to reel it back because they've had so many flops recently.
They've been propped up by, Saudi oil money and stuff like that. So, they're much like Amazon. Amazon will do DEI till the end of time. Disney will probably be able to do DEI until a hostile takeover.
We need to get the right-wing Christian billionaires to realize that the culture actually matters. And
they're really stupid. They're blind. They're not stupid. They're blind. I've talked to plenty of right-wing conservative millionaires and billionaires, and they just don't get it. A little bit of money thrown at the culture, and you could, first of all, make a lot of money, and secondly, change the direction of this whole train wreck.
Yeah, but a friend of mine he knows a lot of this like billionaire cabal of Christians, and all they wanted to do was like the Kirk Cameron Fireproof movie stuff, and it's like, you can't change the culture by preaching to the choir. Right?
We have a news topic that kind of is related to that in regards to a tweet Matt Walsh mentioned about and it just shows that unfortunately a lot of conservatives, they just don't understand culture and pop culture generally. But we'll get to that. That's coming later. Let's continue on with Wheel of Time. And so season 3 dropped. No one gives a crap apart from the people who are just trying to glaze it and prop it up and, because it ticks the right boxes. The show is not good. And anyone and people are trying to say that, it's only people who like the books who hate the show. No, the show is bad, separate to the books. Like I lost my mind. There is this scene in season 1 where one of the women is tied into a chair, and Perrin is a male character, his ex, and he breaks free. They're both captured, and he's starting to get connected with his powers. And the show is so desperate to not have a man save a woman. Egwene teleports out of her chair, and they don't show it. She was literally tied up, and suddenly she's free with no explanation. And then she stabs the guy in the back who was captured, and Perrin was literally in the perfect spot to save her. And it made the entire scene utterly nonsense. You're sitting there going, you've just robbed the tension and build-up of that scene where you have Perrin ready to save Egwene, and then Egwene, nope, she's free, and she saves Perrin because they can't have a man save her. They're that deluded into the woke progressive mindset that they have bastardized just common sense storytelling, and all the tension is robbed out of nearly every single payoff, and it's not a good show by any means. And so my wife, who is far more forgiving of bad media than me, she tried to watch episode 1 of season 3. She's like, this is rough, this is hard to get through, I'm not having a good time. And the report of season 3 is par for the course, where the main character, Rand, is playing second fiddle. You wouldn't even think is the main character, is constantly being, pulled by all the female characters, robbed of his agency, and they do nonsensical things to push progressive stuff in. Like, there's 2 characters who are canonically straight in the books who become love interests for Rand. Well, they're gay now. They're just going to have they're in a gay relationship. And so Rand is living true to this mentality right here, or is turning more characters gay wherever he can, because not for the sake of a story that it might enhance or it's, got purpose in the plot. It's just for political nonsense representation bullcrap, which has it undermines so many important structural kind of setups and payoffs that they don't really care about doing anything good.
Well, beyond gender politics and all the rest of it, the entertainment industry is largely run by morons. So even if they have an agenda, And all the morons out there, as I say, that won't be offended because they know I'm not talking about them. But guys like this, they don't care, and they don't care because they're stupid. I mean, if you wanted to push an agenda, wouldn't you want the property your agenda is in to be successful? But no, they don't know how to do that. They don't want to do that. They're not interested. And that's the thing to remember. Most of these people they're not real bright.
And speaking about like interjecting, so when you wrote Levon's Trade, and then you had it's being made into a movie coming out. Was it next week?
2 weeks from now.
2 weeks from now. How many of the characters were turned gay in your movie?
None. Sylvester Stallone wrote the screenplay. So
there you go. I like Sylvester.
How many of the gay characters were turned straight?
Funnily enough, when I sold the translation right to Russia, they told me they would have to excise the 2 characters in the book who were gay. So I'm like, okay.
And you did?
So they became straight. They went in the opposite direction of our entertainment.
So it's not just based, it's mega based.
You want to play the trailer?
Negatively based.
Well, yes, we'll play it in a sec. I want to grab, because Samuel Aratan in chat, he's actually got this is a picture of one of the artists of Perrin in the book. And so he's clearly a fan. And he says, like, in season 3, they set up Matt's duel perfectly and then decided to not do it properly and make it less profound without the wisdom of Hamar or him smoking his pipe. And so that's like a great moment in the book that they can't even get right. It's not, they have a blueprint to follow.
Yeah, well, it was called a novel.
Exactly.
The guy wrote it up for him. Like, this is what you do. This is the story.
There were so many changes in season 1 and 2. When I was watching, I was like, why? And it wasn't for brevity. It wasn't to keep things tight. You literally could 1-for-1 do the book for the scene in the book for what you showed in the show, and it would be 1,000 times better. You have substituted and changed it for something that was so much worse. And it's just, and a lot of the changes when they do is always to uplift a female character, reduce the male characters. It's something progressive or pure vanity of the creator, where they think they know better and they want to inject their own kind of
that's been a thing forever, though. It's like almost every adaptation of a thing is adapted in such a way that you don't entirely recognize it. I think the thing that is closest to the book that I can remember is the original Time Machine movie. Yeah, when I was reading that book, I felt like I was watching the movie over again.
I'll tell you another one is Outlaw Josie Wales. Outlaw Josie Wales is so close to its source material.
Oh, really?
They don't change anything. Even all of that great dialogue is in the novel.
Nice.
So, yeah, it doesn't happen often, but it happens.
Now I don't have to read the book.
Elmore Leonard used to say, no, read the book. It's terrific. Elmore Leonard used to say, he'd sit in the production meeting and they tell him how much they loved him. And we want to be in the Elmore Leonard business. And this is genius. And then say, and now here's what we want to change.
Yeah, exactly.
And
which
so,
is funny. Well, kind of going back to this whole fantasy thing is why Game of Thrones works so well, I think, is because like George worked in Hollywood writing shows for however long, and he kind of took that sort of pacing and whatnot and put it into his books and did it chapter by chapter with that weird like point of view chapter thing. But he writes in a way that it's so easily to visualize what you're doing, and he doesn't get bogged down in the different shades of green in every blade of grass like some authors do. I won't name any names, but
So here is a tweet from someone who, tried to watch season 3, and this is their report on it. So my take on season 3 so far: if you didn't know Rand is the main character, you would think he's a pesticide character. First 3 episodes focus solely on the women. Shock horror. They took a great moment from the books and altered it so they can get a scene where they have people off screen having sex. That's something that they wanted to do. They wanted to sexualize the characters far more than they are in the books. But when they do that, it's this weird thing where they constantly want the male characters to throw their tops off and stuff. So, but at the same time, it's anyway. I won't. There's a rabbit hole in terms of that, because Wheel of Time has this kind of innocence to it, where the male characters, they're new to the world and everything. So in the first season, they're having sex, but the first scripts of season 1 were released with the notes, and they were written like there's these notes that say, all right, they're going to be doing the deed, but we're solely focusing on the pleasure of the women, and the men are all, are only doing it for the women, and all this stuff. It's this really weird.
That's the way the men like it. What are you talking? So basically, we're going to make this a porno.
There's that, but it's porno for either middle-aged women or gay guys or something like that, right? And it's bad though. But so they go out of their way to inject that stuff into it. It says Rand is still as pathetic as ever, and what they did to Rand, especially Matt and I just guess Min looks like they are stuck mid-transition. That Min is supposed to be this young, attractive, tomboy in the books, and they cast this middle-aged Asian woman as Min, and it looks nothing like a character at all. Perrin can't act. Apparently, Elaine and Avienda are gay, which isn't canon. Like that wasn't in the books. Avienda hates Rand, but it's clearly because Rafe is a male feminist and doesn't understand the character motivations. Avienda's relationship with Rand is really important. She is a kind of aggressive and judgmental and very critical of Rand, right? And it's written such a way that it's so clear that's because she has feelings for Rand, and she resents those feelings because she doesn't want to have those feelings. And so she then tries to be mean to him to try and, get him to not like her and stuff. But the subtext is so clear in the books that Avienda has the hots for him. And it's written in a really good way to demonstrate that, where the reports are like, no, she just hates Rand now. Like they missed the subtext completely from reports from people who watched it. And the main character of the franchise doesn't even have top billings on the credits, pretty much sums it all up. So that seems to be accurate, especially because my wife, is confirming because she's tried to watch episode 1 of season 3. And so this show is just still terrible, but Amazon is going to keep pushing it. And there's such little interest in it now that I don't even have the will to bother watching or reviewing it. It's dead to me, and it's dying in irrelevance, and that's kind of the big death of a show in my mind, when people just don't give a crap about it. Barely anyone is reviewing it, barely anyone's talking about it, and they get what they deserve. Yet like the mainstream, like I said, they're glazing for it. They're trying to, present it. And so I'm interested in what the show numbers might be. It's like, because they've been obviously.
Well, they're going to be fudged anyways, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I mean, they can tell you whatever they want to tell you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Who are they? Are they? I wonder if they're trying to convince Jeff Bezos that it's worth continuing to make it so they can keep their jobs.
It could be. I don't think he spends all day going over the algorithms.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
is he watching the show and going, wait a minute?
I mean, that's such a monster organization. You could hide all kinds of data from the boss.
I agree, actually, because that's what they seem to be doing with Rings of Power, but to an even larger extent. The marketing that they push behind it is crazy.
What gets me about that show is they spent a fortune on that show, but boy, it doesn't look it. That show looks so cheap.
The armor looks like it's just painted on the.
Yeah, it looks like they bought it at Hollywood Spirit. It's like it doesn't look right. It's not. You compare direct images from that to the Peter Jackson movies, and it's like where'd the money go?
100%.
Somebody bought a villa in Spain with this money.
Wheel of Time is even worse. It looks insanely cheap.
Yeah. I've seen little clips from it, and it looks like a high school play.
Yeah. And you can
without
they
the charm.
repurpose sets all the time that is really obvious, and you wonder, where does the money go? And then you find out, it has all these producers, and the people behind the scenes are probably getting these fat stacks of cash, leaving very little.
That's money laundering. The whole.
The whole industry is money laundering. But I mean, as badly as the show does here domestically, imagine what it does overseas. I mean, they hate this kind of stuff overseas.
So, Chuck, how are you going to launder the money from your movie?
Real estate. I'm going to buy a chain of laundromats. Amazing how much you can do with quarters.
It's true. Great.
So I want to check out this trailer for your movie, Chuck. But first, let's catch up on the super chats, because most of the current ones are going to be about Wheel of Time, and then we'll check out the trailer and move on to some of the other topics. But that's kind of my just broad overview of Wheel of Time season 3. The show's dead to me, and I don't want to go through the pain of having to see the source material further bastardized.
I'm sensing you're displeased.
Yes, mate. In the reviews, I literally am
trying to read between the lines there, Chuck.
Yeah.
I don't know what gave it away.
He's kind of reserved in his opinions on this. Get it out of him. What do you really think about this?
The resent builds by the fact that the showrunner just has no respect for what he is given. This is the author has passed away. This is his legacy now, and they do not give a crap. They don't care about sharing the story that the author wants. They're more concerned about sharing their interpretation of that story with their politics and worldview, which is one of the most disrespectful things I can probably think of. You're spitting on a man's legacy and grave for your own arrogance and vanity and political agenda. It's disgusting. And the contrast between that to Peter Jackson's approach to Lord of the Rings, where you see the interview where he says, we weren't making this to share our narrative or story. This was to share Tolkien's story. So we're not going to be injecting our views on it. We want to share what Tolkien's views were. And that was true respect. And of course, if you do that, you're actually going to translate why the original was so good and why people.
And then they milked the Hobbit.
And then they got to the Hobbit. But the Lord of the Rings trilogy, it's great. And I'm re-listening to Lord of the Rings on audiobook, and it's been really intriguing to see how faithful the adaptation was, but the needed changes that they needed to make here and there, and how they still kept in some really important elements in the movies to keep it and so many of the best lines, because look, it's been a long time since I've gone through Lord of the Rings, okay? And so the freshest kind of memory of Lord of the Rings is from the movies, and those great lines in the movies that stick with you, most of them are directly from the books.
Oh, yeah.
Taken, and it's that's why they're so great,
Tolkien's languages. I read it when I was junior high school, and I've been listening to the audiobooks recently. And it's wow, I liked it when I was a kid, but boy, I really appreciate it now. His language is so beautiful. And
amazing.
There's so much humor in there that I didn't get when I read it.
Yes. And he's the world building master. Because when I first read Lord of the Rings, I was much younger and I didn't know kind of all the world building, any of the lore of the Silmarillion or anything like that. And I still haven't read the Silmarillion, but I'm much more aware of the lore. And I like watching kind of YouTube video breakdowns, and it's so big and long and extensive, the lore of this world. And then re-listening to Lord of the Rings and seeing all the references to the history and the lore and the characters that is just all throughout is this is such a rich living world that he has created with all this just vibrant history behind it, that it just enhances the experience incredible. So because there's a lot of references to those things and they have weight, and they reflected the story as well. And it's just brilliant. He's a masterful writer. There's a reason why Lord of the Rings became so beloved and has the legacy it did. And of course, when adapting it, you want it to be any bit as successful and beloved as the original. You do it properly. Right. And then I see hacks like Rafe Judkins bastardizing a work that is genuinely brilliant. I've recently finished going through all the Wheel of Time again on audiobook. It's such a big book series, and there's such great things to love in that series, genuinely so. And then you see someone just raping it effectively.
This is pretty common though in the fandom, right? I mean, you got movies where obviously the director and the writer come in because they're fans of the comic book or the book or whatever. It's over and over again. And then that's what elevates it in the space to the point where, comic book movies were the biggest thing for 15 years straight. And then just like in Marvel, it's the kind of the milkshake girls thing, right? You had these people coming into the industry because they want to make their voices heard about what they think, and they want to change. They don't care about. They're not fans. The bottom line is they're not fans.
yeah, even when you get a fan creator working on something, it's not always a guarantee. I mean,
No,
look at
but
the
it's
John
kind of a
Carter,
necessity.
the John Carter movie. I mean, that guy was a fan of the John Carter series, but boy, he didn't get it, and he just screwed that up entirely forever. So.
Yeah. And to your point, Mike, about these other people kind of seeing a beloved franchise and they want to come in and then, co-opt it. And one of the reasons is, I genuinely think, is that they lack the talent to make something beloved of themselves with their own message and themes and everything. And so that's why they need to co-opt something else that's popular and inject it into that.
Of course.
I find it really interesting because one of my natural reactions when I'm watching something that I love, my instinct as a writer myself is to want to write my own kind of take on that. I want to write something new with my own, perspective. I don't want to corrupt or change what I saw that I liked. And if I was to ever, work on something like that, of course, the mindset should always be respected, be as true to it as possible to capture that. So yeah, I get really angry with this disrespect that people like Rafe Judkins do to beloved properties like this, especially when it comes out that they're making changes just out of spite to piss off people who love the source material because they can. They have the power to do it now and they're in control. And it's like, well, your legacy is going to be one of that, basically. People will only remember what you're making as a failure. It will never have the, legacy or positive, reflection the book series does. And it just makes me appreciate the books even more in a way, but despise this show.
Well, the positive part about this is all the stuff that is just absolute dreck. It's not going to stand the test of time, and it's going to just be forgotten to history.
And the books will always be there.
Yeah, 100%. Like, look at Lord of the Rings. I'm still listening to it.
Nobody watches Robert Corman's Fantastic Four.
Right.
Roger Corman.
Exactly. And so these shows will just die in irrelevancy, and they already kind of are. No one gives a crap about season 3 now, but they're still going to spew it out and waste money on it. And it's like, all right, keep doing it, keep wasting money, and we can keep ignoring it, but also pointing out the crap that you're making. Let's grab some of these super chats and we'll catch up to where we're at. And so Zachary Melvin for $20 says, I would like to recommend a YouTube channel called The Sword and the Pen Reflections. She has a degree in English literature. She has been freelancing editing for a while. She also worked in the independent film industry. Awesome. All right. The Sword and the Pen Reflections. Thank you, mate. I'm going to give that
before you move on, this just kind of, I don't know why, it just reminded me of something. So back in the 90s, remember the DVD clubs and stuff where you could, just get new CDs all the time. I had one of those books like this with like just CDs after CDs after CDs. And, it was stuff that I got while it was popular. And it just dawned on me after a while. It's like, I only listened to like Louis Armstrong, the Beatles, friggin' Floyd. It's like, I only listened to the stuff that stood the test of time, even if I had new stuff all the time.
Right.
Because we're always producing so much popcorn. It's like, it 99% of it's going to suck and nobody's going to remember it anyways.
Right.
Right. And so I just stopped buying CDs on.
All right, so we got 999 from the Book of Grudges says, my favorite book series is Dresden Files. Love the Dresden Files. I don't want it adapted until Hollywood purges the work. I'm assuming he's saying. Luckily, Jim Butcher refuses to sell the series unless he has creative control. Good on him. That's also, I think, one of the struggles that Brandon Sanderson has been having in adapting his works is that he's been like making sure that, they're going to do it right. He wants more control over it, but that's also halted some of its, forward movement. I reckon Brandon's getting close where he might be able to just fund that whole thing himself. But that's kind of where that is. But yeah, I love the Dresden Files. Buddy Rap $5 says something Overton window, something semantic overload, something woke. I don't know the context of where that one was coming in, Buddy Rabbit. So unfortunately, I'm a bit lost on it. But thanks for the super chat, mate. And we have from 1X at Bandcamp for $2 says, play more shmups. I don't know what shmups is. I don't know if I can play more of it. Thank you.
Oh,
Samuel Aratad for $49.99. Dude, big super chat. Thank you for that. He says it subverts the moral underpinnings of the book. He's talking about the show adaptation, and I think it's in reference to the overall message of Wheel of Time is that men and women need to work together, and they corrupt that completely. They're constantly just trashing men throughout the whole thing, and that women are so much better and more powerful. He says Rand not only slept with Egwene, but also with Lanfear. Oh, dude. Thanks for reminding me. It's like, sorry, if you know the context, it's unbelievable, the crap that they're doing. His rejection of her was a critical character development. Matt's dad, instead of teaching him the staff and horse trading, was a wife-beating drunk. Yeah. Like, some of the changes are honestly baffling why they would do it. And they had Brandon Sanderson consult for the first season of Wheel of Time. And you see some of his notes on the script that were shared. And he literally saying, like, oh, you shouldn't do this. You're making all the characters sound like assholes. You don't want them to be assholes. They ignored nearly every one of his recommendations. And there was a big thing that he was saying, you don't want to do this. It's with Perrin because they made Perrin now married at the beginning of the show. And he kills his wife. And it just ruins his character arc. And Brandon was like, that's a bad idea. But they were, and by the way, Brandon is a pretty good, writer. You might want to take his, advice on board. He did finish off the Wheel of Time series. He's a pretty good, well-informed.
Yeah, but he did it by splitting the last book into 3 books.
Yeah, a good choice though, because do you know how big those last 3 books are? Like, just individually, they're really big. One book would be it would have been the largest book, and this is a Memory of Light, right? That's 1/3 of the planned book. It's like you times that by 3. I don't think you could fit it into a single book. But he finished it off, and it might have been a good idea to listen to him. And it's just
Chuck Dixon could have wrapped that up in 66 pages.
Yeah, probably.
Possibly. But I like that it took, I love the ending. And one of my things that I love about Wheel of Time is the fact that it'll slow down, take its time, and explore a lot of those kind of, side stories. I just can't believe the arrogance they have to ignore, someone who you might, probably has some good feedback for you, but they still did that. And the show is unbelievably bad.
He's a writer. Why would they listen to him?
Right. Anime fan at $37.94 for $10 says, Shad, I have a castle question for you. A castle toilet question. Beauty and the Beast was set right after the French Revolution. How likely is it that there were still chamber pots in Beast's castle? Right? I said, right after the French Revolution. I mean, if it's a castle, it usually have a dedicated toilet, a garderobe. And
is that the little room that sticks out the side of the wall, and then you just...
Not always, but that a lot of examples have those. Where the waste just falls into the moat, and it could be a dry moat.
The oubliette.
Yep. So, but other castles would have a cesspit that would need to be cleaned out, and a whole number of other things. And so it kind of depends. Yeah, it kind of depends. But if it was a dedicated castle, they would have a proper toilet somewhere, and they wouldn't really need chamber pots per se. But thanks for the super chat, anime fan. It's an anime fan again for $5 says, functionally immediate follow-up. There is a 0% chance that some poor servant was turned into a chamber pot or toilet in Beast Castle. There's a joke about that. I'm not sure if I should share it. It's about the servant that got turned into the toilet and is complaining. It's got a cut. Anyway, maybe I'll skip it. Yeah, I'm not sure if you know that one.
Who would Disney have had to do that voice?
I wonder. Kenpachi Matsudai, $5 says the jewel where Rand earns the heron was amazing, and then the show had him just one-shot them all with the power. I know. There's this big moment where Rand has this sword fight with a sword master in the book. It's great moment. But the show just skips it, and he just kills it. And is supposed to barely even be able to use the power at that point. But anyway, and again, it's why make the change? That was so much better in the book. But there's so many baffling choices throughout the whole show. Clint Orris, $5 says, Glorfindel was gender swapped to give Eowyn more screen time. PD lets the real fans down and no Tom Bombadil madness. I kind of get that though. I kind of get it. Like, this is one of those moments when you do have a limited time, and so you do have to condense things. And so I do like, and the movie's already ended up pretty long. I would not be opposed to them doing the Tom Bombadil part in it, but I get why they decided to kind of skip that. And with Eowyn, I thought Eowyn was the horse one, wasn't it? What's the name of the elf girl in Lord of the Rings?
Eowyn is the one who goes after the Witch King in climax.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think they skipped Tom Bombadil because he does nothing to advance the plot.
Yes, Tom Bombadil is this really interesting moment that's a world-building moment, which kind of adds mystery and wonder to it. And the first half of the book of Lord of the Rings is an adventure travel story of where the hobbits run into something odd or interesting or something dangerous, and they go through different events at a time until they get to Rivendell. And that could be just a movie in itself. And it'll be a really interesting movie. But for the overall plot, you're absolutely right. It's one of those things that can be cut to condense it. And so I get it. I get why they cut it. Is it? I would like to see a full adaptation that has Tom Bombadil.
He's a character that works on the page. He wouldn't work on the screen. I don't think
it would be like, because the whole, hey, diddy, I'm Tom Bombadil.
He just spouts nonsense. It doesn't advance the plot. There's no exposition there. I can see. Yeah, I'd love to see it too, but I can see why they had to excise it.
Exactly.
Like, what the hell's with this character?
But I guess parts about it I love, like the fact that he can see Frodo when he has the ring on, and then he takes the ring and he shows it has no power over him and things like that. And the mystery about how old he is basically this like being from the creation almost that has this incredible power and stuff.
That's like I said, it works on the page, but you couldn't get that across on screen. And if he was to be able to see Frodo as invisible for a theater audience who knew nothing about Tolkien, that really diminishes Frodo's powers. So
the danger of the ring as well, actually.
Yeah. So it's like, well, who the hell's this goofball that he's got all the answers, but he can't give them to us. So talks like a moron.
Well, it's funny because his song also has a power to it, because when Frodo is trapped in the Barrow Downs, he summons Tom Bombadil by singing Tom Bombadil's song, and then Tom Bombadil comes and saves them. And so they're like, I get what the people's saying, but 100% with you there.
I'm just being devil's advocate here. I love the character as well. So
Michael Dunay for $10 says, you only have to get as far as the intro of season 1 to know what the show's about. The whole thing is a tapestry showing a woman in different colored dresses. What would you guess it's about with that context? And seriously, the book has 3 main male characters. The main characters of the show are 3 male characters. And you wouldn't even know that. What they did to those characters is just a travesty and abomination. They're cowardly, pathetic jokes in the show.
I think these chats are only serving the purpose of further breaking your heart.
A little bit. Trembling Colors for $1.99 says, Rings of Power and Wheel of Time have worse costumes than Xena.
Yeah.
Hey, Buddy Rabbit for the big 50. Thank you very much, dude. Appreciate you. He says, Glorfindel would have been yet another character to introduce that has little relevance to the advancement of the story. But Arwen, not Eowyn, they are like, I thought that was the wrong character, is important in creating emotional resonance to Aragon. For movie structure, it makes sense. And that's not the only time the movie makes choices like that when I was listening to it, I was like, that's why they did that. And it's for the overall structure. Again, like A great example is how they end the first movie. Okay, the book doesn't end after the battle at the river. It ends before then, and the second book opens up, and it's more of a quick summary of what happened. You don't see Boromir fight. You only get told what happened with Boromir and that he tried to protect Merry and Pippin. And so the choice to take that out of book 2 and end off the first movie with a grand battle with the orcs, friggin' brilliant. Of course, that was the absolute 100% correct choice to do.
This was a moment of show, don't tell.
Yes.
100%. 100%. And Frodo never offers the ring to Aragorn. They don't have that exchange in the book. So that's kind of a new scene that the movie decided to add. And I think it's a brilliant moment. It's an absolute brilliant moment. The moment when Boromir picks up the ring in the snow, that's not in the books. But his statement of, I care not, right, is actually when he is talking with Frodo at the river, and it's the lead in to him trying to take the ring. But it's a great moment to kind of hint at Boromir's beginning kind of, temptation and, corruption to the ring's influence early on. And so there are moments when the movies will kind of take something from one moment, put it in a different place, which is, and from the movie, I can see like, you did that for a very clear narrative reason, and it works in the movie quite a lot. There's moments in Boromir's dialogue that he says later in the book that in the movies they lifted that and put that in the council, and it's like the commentary. It's I think was saying, we've been protecting your lands, for also. It is a gift, and we're not use the the weapon of the enemy against him. He says that way later on, and they put that in the council. Again, you can see the narrative reasons why they did that. That was an indication to try and give Boromir, one, a bit more characterization. He doesn't say a lot in the council in the books, and Boromir doesn't have too much of a more prominent presence until the more end of book 1. But because he's going to be visually there, you need him having a more active role in the movie because you're seeing him and you need him to do something. And so Peter Jackson, they very cleverly kind of took moments that were later in the books to give Boromir more presence and characterization in the movie, and it worked really, really well. Like the people who adapted Lord of the Rings, the Peter Jackson trilogy, they knew what they were doing. A lot of the changes were intentional and very well done.
Well, they were skilled, earnest filmmakers. I mean, they know how to do this stuff.
They knew storytelling.
Yeah,
exactly. And they knew kind of like, all right, if a character needs an arc, we need to kind of start it here, give him some, stuff to do as his character progresses. And Boromir is a great example. I handled Boromir brilliantly in the adaptation through certain changes. And it wasn't changes of his character. They were being 100% true to his character by taking, all right, he's saying the line, I care not. We're going to take that, put it where, and he's going to have a temptation of the ring here. And these were very clever writers who did that. So yeah, and in terms of Arwen, I agree with the changes of what they did with Arwen. They to set up her character earlier on, so you know who she is, and giving Glorfindel's kind of moment on the river to Arwen. That makes sense. It makes good structural sense for the movie. So thank you very much for the Buddy Rabbit. And I 100% agree, mate. And then Buddy Rabbit again, $5 says, for 5, yes, Faramir also resisted the ring in the books. He doesn't in the films. He made an antagonistic force in Two Towers in the books is downright helpful. I'm up to book 2. I'm not up to that moment yet, so I actually can't comment on the thing because I'm trying to go off much further older memory because it's been a while since I reread that. I remember I remember that really liking what they did with Faramir in the movies. They did a lot of changes that I just like. Some were a bit, and so I'm interested to finish off a Lord of the Rings now and to get a kind of secondary perspective or a renewed perspective on it, I guess. Because Arwen, she, from memory, she barely appears in the books. She doesn't do much, and so I'm interested to kind of get a comparison on that. But she does defeat the Witch King, so yeah, I'm looking forward to getting an update on it. Alrighty, thank you everyone for super chatted so far. But Mike, you have something cool to show us right here.
I do, but I don't take credit for it.
And this is based on your book, Chuck.
Yes.
This must be pretty damn cool to see.
A little weird too.
That's for slapping that woman. That woman was my wife. That's for slapping your wife. You. A 19-year-old girl was kidnapped. She's my family.
Just get my back if I ever need it.
All of this is for a girl. I'm not stopping until I bring her home. You clearly have no idea who you fuck with. I was hungry. Fuck you. This isn't just some kidnapping. This is human trafficking.
You killed your way into this. You're gonna have to kill your way out of it.
He's hunting us.
Oh, that is not good.
Wanna have a race?
You a cop?
You wish I was a cop.
Look at those bricks. You ain't a cop. You're a working man.
That's right. Time to get to work.
Is that a grenade?
Yep.
This is nothing like Fortnite.
That looks great.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh my god, bro! Did you not?
Sorry, I watch Andrew Wilson all the time.
that just looks like a classic action flick that we have been, missing for a while because, for so long it's just all toxic masculinity. We can't have that.
This is a He-Man flick, that's for sure.
I love it. I'm looking forward to it.
Give us more than that, Chuck. You got a movie coming out. Come on.
Cool. I mean, these things take so long, and when you deal with Hollywood, the first thing you learn is to harden your heart. Just turn your heart to stone.
Yeah.
And just until you see your name on a check, it's not happening. So until the carpenters start going to work to build the sets, it's not really happening. So
you're kind of still in doubt until you actually go see it on the screen.
Yeah, I want to see the opening weekend box office. I want to see the international box office. I mean, we're already talking sequel because it looks good.
Right.
The productions are real good for it. So,
and how many books are in the series already?
There's 12.
Wow.
So I spoke to one of the producers last week about setting up a sequel. So and Jason Statham says he really wants to play this character again. So
nice.
That's awesome, Shaq. I'm so happy for you, Ed. Now, is this one of the first properties that you've made that's getting adapted?
Yeah, because I've been so close. I mean, so many times. But this is the first one. Not the first time I've seen one of my characters on screen, though, because I co-created the character Bane.
Yes.
The Batman villain. So, but yeah, this is, and it's neat because some of the action set pieces in the movie are right out of the book. So they stayed loyal to them. And some of the dialogue. That line.
I was wondering.
The dialogue, you killed your way into this, you're going to have to kill your way out of it. That's right out of the book.
Oh, good. I was wondering how much of the dialogue they would be adapting.
And did you say Sly wrote the script?
He wrote the script, and then David Ayer came on as director and did some rewrites. So it's 2 Academy Award-winning screenwriters worked on it. So I'm okay with that.
Well, if this movie does well, and I actually think this is like good timing for this type of movie to come out, because like I said, we've been missing these types of movies for a bit too long now. I think Hollywood has been trying to avoid, and look, there's been one here and there. And usually when it comes out, a movie or a show like this, which is classic action, right? It usually does all right. Reacher has done pretty darn well, the new Reacher series.
Yeah.
Terminal List is another one that people have said that it's been pretty good because there's very few of them. John Wick, well, yes.
John Wick, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, movies like this are kind of a tonic. You know?
Yeah. And they last forever. People just want to watch that stuff over and over again.
Oh, yeah. It's like, what am I going to watch? I'll put in the fourth Rambo movie
again.
Yeah. But because there's been so much of like, we can't do toxic masculinity, like Amazon, pulled the plug on a Conan the Barbarian TV show and replaced it with Wheel of Time because it was going to be too toxic. And you hear stories like that. And now that people seem to be coming out of this woke insanity, and look, we're not out of the woods. I think there's going to be some, parts of this lingering around for a good while yet.
Sure.
All the people who have been pushing are still in Hollywood. But because it seems like people generally are getting fed up with it, that it's a good time for a movie like this.
It's always been there in Hollywood. I mean, you remember 80s movies where the multiracial street gang shows up? I mean, things like that. I mean, we've always had this political correctness in Hollywood where they're just afraid of offending anybody. And when the DEI movement came along, they were the perfect victims. I mean, they were sprawled with legs spread waiting for these people to show up. And, they just changed the whole landscape there for, a good, 5 or 6 years. And now it's over because the money's got to be made. Money has got to start coming back.
Thank goodness. They're going to go back to stuff that people actually like instead of trying to force, this progressive kind of narrative and almost call it corruption because they're specifically doing it to try and change culture, shift, people's perception. But guess what? Men are attracted to women. Most men are attracted to women. It's going to be really hard to change that.
Yeah. Boys and girls. Yeah.
And the great thing about this is the Chuck's creator-owned thing, right? So it's like it's not trying to ride off somebody else's coattails. It's not trying to ride somebody else's legacy or anything like that. It's like a new intellectual property that can become part of the zeitgeist and try to move people towards understanding that, yes, men do like women and like to beat other people up, or beat each other up. So actually, leading into that, Chuck also has this available right now at ripaverse.com. Chuck, you want to tell us about Zaylan, What Kills Must Die?
Yeah. Zaylan is Ripaverse's first truly cosmic character. Joe Bennett and I came up with him. I visited the Ripa offices, and they were showing me their demographics from their market research. And I'm like, comic book company doing market research? This is the first time ever.
Weird.
And they told me what their fan base was like. And I was like, well, I'm going to come up with a character your fan base is really going to like that Joe and I were talking about anyway. And Zaylan is a space-going badass. You think Adam Warlock, you think Nexus, characters like that. And lots of high science fiction and craziness and aliens and space battles and all the rest of it. And I got Joe Bennett on art, so it looks absolutely gorgeous.
So what's the elevator pitch?
Zaylan is his origins are a mystery. He's kind of like took the Superman origin and flipped it on its head. He's alone on the planet of his origin. He doesn't know where everyone went, and he sort of forms his own little, basically independent law enforcement outfit with a bunch of aliens he's found along the way. And they travel through the stars, righting wrongs, and as the title suggests, he's kind of severe about it. What kills must die. he doesn't take prisoners.
Oh, that's the rule. That's the
rule. What kills must die.
The one commandment.
That's not what the bad guy's saying. That's what Zaylan's saying.
Right.
And hey, Lit Dev, good to see you, mate. Sorry, I don't know how long you're in the backstage and I didn't see, so I apologize.
I was out back there a whole hour, Shad. I was
out. Just got in. Great.
Just got here.
This looks great.
I'll put the link in the chat for anybody who wants to check that out.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We're doing good though.
That is
numbers awesome. Are good.
The trailer. How's the trailer? You want to play the trailer?
Yeah, the trailer's okay. They didn't put as much work into this one as earlier ones. But Ripper's got a lot of stuff coming out. They really stepped
Yeah,
up.
Ripper has been going great, just pushing out more content and fleshing out his whole universe and world.
Yeah.
That's what we've been needing for a while.
You know what the Ripperverse needs, though? It's like a Doctor Doom character.
Yeah.
Is that a reference to something, Mike?
No.
Yep, just a suggestion. Eh?
Just something came up just now.
Subtle suggestion. Is the volume on?
We can't hear it. You might need
no
to
volume.
It. No volume.
Okay, hold on. Let me try that again.
We'll get there. I believe in you, Mike.
Like when they lacked, you said like that they lacked on the work and the trailers. Like, wow, no sound at all. That's
they just slacked off entirely. They nailed that one in.
All right, let's
The universe is chaotic and consistent at the same time. From its outer reaches to its core, the law remains the same. With anything precious, there are those who would take it. Worldless, space-going scum who would sell a planet's lifeblood to the highest bidder. And damn the consequences. Their thievery ends here. As the universe has its own immutable laws, I have my own law. What kills must die.
Cool.
There you have it.
check
There
it out.
is. Yes,
At
do check it out.
Ripperverse.
Chuck's doing yeoman's work over at the Ripperverse, and this will be the next blockbuster.
That's a good crowd over there. I like working with them. We're having a lot of fun.
Good people too.
Yeah, I love what you guys are doing and where you're going,
Mhm.
and I see big things in the future. So
I think Rippersend is brilliant. Fully
Yeah.
intending to use that with my next book. Would really either graphic novel or novel when I get those done. We want to use Rippersend.
Yeah, I got a project in the pipeline with them as well. So
Brilliant. Here's an interesting, because we talked a little bit about that. Hey, men like women. So it seems like a simple thing. Shocking, I know, but like there's
mature
been
viewers
a
only.
consistent,
yeah, lead with that.
a consistent attack against the things that men like, and constantly, trying to label it as toxic and problematic and all that stuff. And of course, it doesn't go in reverse. Okay, it's like feminists have been attacking men so much, like, how dare you objectify women? Women are not just objects to be ogled at, but women will ogle men all the time. In Thor, Love and Thunder, was it? Thor literally gets stripped naked, and there's two female characters who eat popcorn and just enjoy the show while he's effectively being sexually assaulted. But it's okay if it happens to a man, but because women can ogle men.
Which is the Marvel movie where like they frame Captain America's butt and go, oh, that's America's ass.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
that's allowed. Do you think that would happen if they did it with a Black Widow? How would that go down?
That's Russia's ass.
It's bizarre, okay, but like the whole woke kind of narrative is that men's interests are bad and men, you need a change and all that stuff. And this contrast, is shocking when it's kind of pointed out. And so one of the things that we've been seeing a lot is in video games, the female characters are being made more ugly, like more masculine and everything. And take a look at this. This is just something that someone threw together, right? And these are actors, or they're sometimes the person that a character is based off of, or something like that. Actually, we need to zoom in. So I'm going to save this image and bring it up as a thing so we can actually zoom in, because there is stuff.
It is kind of funny. It's like almost. It almost feels like the people who are championing women hate the women the most, because all the men get to look like themselves. And all the women are like uglified and hideoufied.
Like, look at this. These are video game characters that based on real people. And look, that's like 1-to-1.
Lance
That is
Reddick,
like
yeah.
a perfect adaptation. It's like, it's
That one's
almost
good.
like this one. Yeah, there's Keanu Reeves, Idris Elba. That's him in something. Like these are 1-to-1 adaptations of real people in video games. Like that one almost looks photorealistic.
I know,
Maybe
that sounds
the Quantum Break one
crazy.
looks more like him than the.
Yeah, the image does. Right?
He
And
wishes
so-
he looked like himself that much.
Yeah.
They even got the slope on this guy's chin, right? Which is like
Yeah.
off center. It's like dead on.
So clearly we can do this. Clearly game developers can do this. Well,
They just make all the men higher definition.
let's have a look at the women.
Over
It's
here,
like-
they made her Nikocado Avocado. That's exactly what he looks like.
Like some of these are
Go Crimson Shin over here.
like, well, what have they done to her jaw and shin? And you can tell that it's kind like the mouth is the same, but they have obviously masculinized the character. Like this one is
What the-
shocking.
I don't know how they came to that conclusion at all. Everyone's like, "Oh, okay." The defense for that one was you have obviously never seen a woman outside of makeup before.
I think these designers, their favorite movie is Shrek, and they like it when Fiona turns into the ogre.
And then there's that little like awkward Shrek smile.
And this one's like it's shocking. And when you see this,
See, they turned her into Farquaad.
I think all these women look, they had the soul sucked right out of them. It's so
I
weird.
know.
Yeah.
But when you see the difference between the men and the women adaptations, is like this is being done on purpose.
Of course it is.
Obviously.
Of course it is.
Liberal women hate pretty women.
Well, and gay creators hate pretty women.
Mhm. Like you get that vibe. A lot of the activist women with this blue hair are usually stereotypically these unattractive, overweight, horrible personality. They just like repulsive people, but they have to be seen. They must be. And how dare you have beauty standards that makes them feel, I guess, insecure and inadequate.
Well, I think their
And
ugliness
so-
on the outside is visible, or on the inside is visible on the outside. I think that's what's going on there. Because I mean,
well, that's yes.
Yeah.
I think every guy's had the experience when a girl you first met, you kind of think they're average, but when the more you interact, they have this beautiful personality and they're really nice, and they literally end up looking more attractive to you. And then the same happens in reverse, like in school, like. There's this girl you first think like, oh, she's really pretty, and then they're a stuck-up narcissistic cow, and they become repulsive to you. You look at them and you're just like, now, like, yeah, personality does a lot.
Yeah.
And so when you see these activists that are just horrible on the inside as well, yeah, I get their personality does.
It must
not
be
help
miserable
them.
being a leftist. It's just like you have to be angry all the time. You cannot be happy about anything. You hate your own country. Like it must be completely, absolutely miserable. And I've seen people come out of this whole thing where it's like, oh yeah, it's like a spell was broken. And I was like miserable all the time, and now I can be happy again. I'm allowed to be happy. I can have relationships again because they not only are they miserable like 24/7 about everything under the sun. They also cut off every single like family member and an old friend because they're not they don't really partly agree with them. They cut them off because they don't 100% agree with them. Right. So they can agree with them on 99% of things, and then if you disagree with them on 1%, suddenly you're J.K. Rowling and you're Lucifer. So you can't really do that.
I just want to point out this is all scientifically validated.
Yeah,
this is from Psychology Today.
Conservatives.
This is true. This was actually a study done. The conservatives are more handsome, more popular. Which is why they want things to stay the same.
I love the first line. I feel cheap writing this.
And dirty.
It reeks of clickbait, but I can't help it. Science can be proven.
Look, Mr. Greg R. Murray, PhD, dance for us, bitch. Get on that pole.
Well, here's the thing: like, there is an objective kind of beauty standard in terms of facial structure. People like they've looked into this, that there is actual kind of like, you know, if certain levels of symmetry, distance, everything like that. That some guy even kind of, he was, I don't know, a scientist or something like that, broke down what is the geometric kind of perfect facial structure. But even outside of like, because I think personal preference does, of course, alter between what people kind of like. And it's funny, like my wife has this beautiful face, but she has kind of more distinctive features that I'm quite attracted to. Yeah, people will have their own kind of personal preferences. There was another thing that I was going to say in relation to that, but it's escaped me. But this kind of thing, right? Like the attack against beauty. It goes a little bit deeper in regards to the video game stuff, because someone just exposed recently something kind of odd with one of the biggest video game engines in the world. And so Unreal Engine is it's basically the program that people can build video games within. And it has this feature that's been out for, I don't know, a year or so now called MetaHuman, which you can create NPCs through, right? And they look crazy realistic. And something has just recently been exposed, which is really odd about MetaHuman. Have a listen to this. Can you hear this? Is the noise coming through? Okay, yeah. Hang on, let me reshare it because I didn't share the audio. I'm a professional, guys. we're good at this.
Welcome to the Culture Crusade. Not the Tech Crusade, the Culture Crusade.
Cool. That's right. All right. Let me know if you can hear that now.
I thought this was worth showing. This is the...
Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Yep. Good.
I can hear it.
Cool.
The MetaHuman tool that Unreal Engine provides for creating realistic characters. And here's a woman I created recently, and I'm quite happy with her. But
yeah, this character looks good.
Like there's a lot of detail, and I think the shape is really nice. Looks very appealing and feminine. But you have to try, very hard to get her to look like this. I had to do what's called the mesh to MetaHuman workflow, which is to import a custom mesh. You actually can't really create someone who looks like this from scratch using the characters they give you. They're actually a lot of them are actually quite ugly, I find. And so I had to use an alternate workflow to get in a different looking mesh to start with, and then I can sculpt it to the way I want it.
So she had to import basically a separate 3D model and then build off of that to get this result. But then she goes to show you the difference.
There's a funny little slider that they provide, which is basically to ignore the mesh that you use and to revert to using theirs. And it just shows you the total anti, woman bias that's in tools like this. And that explains a lot. Like why is it that women look so ugly? And so like right now it's set to 1, which is using my mesh, and if I set it to 0 and using theirs, this is what they want to do. This is what
Hit Command Ray.
I turned off my mesh. This is kind of what they think I want. It's just the ugliest thing you've ever seen, I think. Let's just undo that. I'll stick with her.
What are you saying, Dev?
Like the model she made, pretty lady. She's probably going to give you a smile as she serves you some coffee or give you what you want from a restaurant. But then she goes back and goes to like the original model, and all of a sudden it feels like she's going to tell me her opinions on Trump and
like that slider. Like, look at the difference. Her mesh
using my mesh, and if I set it to 0.
And then suddenly it's a man.
Goes to pleasant coffee barista to, excuse me, did you know that Trump's a Nazi? And then like, ma'am, this is a Wendy's. Get out of here.
And so people are now, speculating. Is like, there's been a lot of characters that are looking pretty masculine, and some are saying, well, it's even now getting embedded into game developer tools to avoid traditional feminine kind of beauty structure.
Well, I don't know how it is now, but a quarter century ago, I used to work in the video game industry, and it was pretty freaking overrun by atheists. I mean, like, atheists are like 5% of the population, and it was like 95% of the people in the game company that I worked at.
I mean, not only that, like in Hollywood generally, the political kind of persuasion of most people in that industry like heavily skewing in one direction, especially like with their standards. You know, how many of them believe in like traditional relationships, marriage, family, and all that. Yeah, in Hollywood, it's like a different world in regards to that.
Yeah, there's a scene. There's a scene in The Exorcist where Father Karras asks Father Merrin, "Why is the demon doing this?" And I have the quote up here, and Merrin says, "I think the point is to make us despair, to see ourselves as animal and ugly, to make us reject the possibility that God could love us." And I think that's at the heart of the left. I really do.
Yeah,
I think that's the communist stuff too. Tear down the heroes, tear down the old with what you saw was good, tear down religion, so that once that's broken down, all you have left is the new regime.
Yep. And they do it with real historical heroes. They do it with our freaking comic book heroes. They do it with anybody you can look up to, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, if they can take away
use to inspire your children, they want to take that away.
Inspiration. If they can take away things that inspire people to protect themselves and look after themselves, suddenly they have less need for the state to look after them and to care for them. And that's an issue if the state wants more power to redistribute all the wealth and to say, we can solve all your problems, just give us ultimate power over everything.
The traditional heroes are all the ones we had, before about 2010 and backwards. We had a lot of traditional heroes who were inspiring, and not just Superman and comic book heroes. We had one of my favorite characters growing up was Samurai Jack, who was like the most lawful good guy you could watch on Cartoon Network. Like he was a samurai, but he was thrown into the future, and I think it was based on Frank Miller's Ronin, which is actually also really fun. But he would go and selflessly defend random aliens and strange. He didn't even defend other humans. He defended other humans, sure, but he would defend like anybody, robots, aliens, whatever it is. It didn't have to look like him or anything like that. He was just there to do the right thing because he was a lawful good character. And so that was just one example. We had other characters. We had Courage the Cowardly Dog, who you might not think is like a good hero, but he is. He's a coward and absolutely afraid of everything. But he still goes in there and defends his owner Muriel from all these horrors, despite his fear. That's bravery.
Joe Murray went to my middle school.
Oh,
Courage the Cowardly Dog creator.
I think he recently died, didn't he?
What? Really? No way.
I think.
Yeah,
so.
he was. I was in like seventh grade, 8th grade, and he would come into our school and do these like comic strip like workshops, and so it was before Courage came out, but.
Samurai Jack, there's a show that could have a like total kick-ass live action adaptation.
Yeah.
If they did it right,
technically,
they could do something awesome.
Like I would like them to have a live action Samurai Jack show, technically, but not today.
That's the issue, because I don't trust nearly anyone adapting, which is why I'm so happy to hear about your movie, because it sounds like your movie is it's happening right. It's been done right, which seems very rare these days.
I mean, once upon a time, you go, "Oh, they're making a movie of your favorite comic book or old TV show." Oh, wow! Now it's like, "No, please, no."
Exactly.
Like, no,
that's exactly right. When I've seen just the bastardization that's happened to the Wheel of Time, which we talk about a lot, it's just like, I love that book series so much, and what they have made is an insult. It angers me what they've done to that beloved book series, that I'm just like, I'm so cautious now. It's like I don't want to see them adapt.
I recently saw news that they're gonna make a live action adaptation of a very famous manga series called Claymore, which essentially
I've heard of that recently, and I'm like,
a little sister to Berserk, and everyone treated like, oh, it's dead. They're going to kill it, because
Claymore,
not only are
I only know Claymore by reputation, and it is like crazy gory. All right?
It really is. It's like they would, I don't know how it would survive in the West, because it's all about women fighting each other.
They don't have the ball to Claymore properly. They're going to completely,
They could just show it on Bravo after Beverly Hills Housewives or whatever.
And is it going to be a live action adaptation of Claymore?
That's what it was supposed to be. Yeah.
Wow.
Like, one of my points are like Invincible. I'm enjoying the Invincible adaptation, and I think they made the right decision by adapting it into animation and not live action, because I just don't think they could pull off the gore and how full on Invincible gets at times. By keeping it in animation, they have been able to pretty much embrace a lot of the
Go to
more
the insanity.
full on parts of that show, of that story. And
Although story-wise of Claymore, they kind of have a slam dunk. So I'm going to see how they're going to mess it up, because the storyline of Claymore is they have all the women are women, because they have to combine themselves with monsters in order to defeat the monsters, and that kind of basically
and they become insanely hot as a result. Like they're all beautiful.
That's kind of the Silver Eye. Everyone is in love with them too, but that's kind of basically they're Grey Wardens. They're Grey Wardens. Essentially, it's pretty much the same thing. I'm to the point where, like, when I play Dragon Age, like, they just rip off the Claymore people, but they're only women because men can't handle it because they're too horny. That's kind of the lore. Men go in the men versions of the Claymore were really powerful, but they couldn't.
They end up raping everything. Is that what happens?
They end up going they end up changing. They end up like awakening, I think is what it's called. They end up like going monster mode because they're too horny. Only women are able to handle it and not go monster mode right away. So
well, hang on. I think I like that world building kind of story, because look, men do have a natural, aggressive kind of aspect to our impulses and stuff.
Yeah.
And so if they take on a monster, characteristics that enhances those things to such a level, logic, like if you enhance the male aggression, that can become uncontrollable. But if it's enhanced in women, which, can be a bit more restrained, that they can be a functional kind of super soldier in that sense. That's an interesting logical kind of premise to justify.
It's not just like men bad. It's just
Yes.
Here's an idea. And
I
the
like
thing
that.
is,
That's cool.
the thing is, the Claymore is not that the women won't awaken. They will eventually awaken. They just don't do it right away.
Mhm.
Well, once again, they rely on the difference between the genders, the difference between
Yes.
the sexes, and that's just not allowed. I like to add that, women can control all those things unless they're put in a position of power.
Well, here's
It
the
all
thing.
comes
I
out.
actually find it really fascinating looking into this. So, it seems like the general consensus in the psychology is that women are actually just as aggressive as men, but they express it differently.
Right.
Men will express aggression physically, where women will express aggression and vindictiveness and other things like that through other more subtle kind of ways, like character assassination, and also getting men to act in violent ways for them and stuff. And like people that I've studied, behavioral
Manipulation.
relationships. There's manipulation there as well. But they've found that women in relationships are more likely to initiate acts of violence, like in terms like actual domestic abuse, striking stuff. Women are actually more common and initiate those engagements more often than men do. So men actually hit women less, that they found. The issue is women are very incapable or struggle to injure men. And when men hit women, injuries occur and death can result far more often because men are just naturally far more stronger. But
And women are unaccountable.
Well, there's an aspect of that, but women are actually more likely to initiate violence, and I actually think about my own experience. Right, a guy knows that if he hits me, I'm friggin' gonna be hitting back. Right, I'm gonna defend myself. Women have known that they can slap a man and be protected by the thing because chivalry. And the thing is, I actually believe in traditional chivalry. I think men do have great power, comes great responsibility. That, this does not justify women hitting men. Women should not hit men with the expectation that a man is going to be chivalrous, even though I think men should be, because if a man does hit back, injuries are going to occur and they need to understand their strength. But women have used that as a protection to actively be violent against men far more often. Like, the whole thing that it's a woman will slap a man for being rude or saying something really bad, and if a man did that to a woman, it's like,
that's what Russian TV is all about, though.
Yeah. Well, and French
You see
movies.
those clips all over the place.
It's French movies. It's not a French movie till a woman gets slapped.
Sometimes a woman just needs a good slap.
Well, We Are Harboring has a good kind of chat. It says women will attack men because they don't think men will retaliate. And women tend to massively overestimate how physically powerful they are compared to men. That's true. That's true. Like And look, I have to say, it's kind of interesting, dare I say, somewhat satisfying when not to see men hit women, but when women are like they're trying to wrestle, play with their hubby, and they say, "No, don't hold back to him, hubby." They're like, "I don't want." I go, "No, I can take it." And so the guy's like, "All right, fine." Boom! Just bodies her instantly, and she's just like, "Holy, like crap!"
Women,
and they had no idea how easily overpowered they could be when the
women have
contest
so little upper body strength. Like it's almost ubiquitous. Women can't do pull-ups. If you know a woman who can do a pull-up, it's probably because they're like a weightlifter or some other a gymnast or something like that.
Yeah.
Women in general, that's how little upper body strength they have. They can't even pull 100 pounds over a bar.
Yeah,
you know, it's like
and
they hit you, you're like, oh, okay.
Feminists love to jump onto the exceptions of women athletes and things like that, and they avoid the common, reality. And the common reality is that the strength difference between the average man and the average woman is actually scary when you start to realize, like after getting married, right? I'm getting a very direct comparison where my wife would be either struggling to open a jar or lift a box or something like that and ask me to do it. And I'm like, what, really? And the strength difference has shocked me how much stronger I am compared to my wife. And this is a reality that and society has been structured in important ways based around this reality that men protect women. Okay. Women respect men because the average fact is, and I saw a tweet recently. I wish I bookmarked it because it was an interesting tweet. It was someone, it was like a woman just saying that it's actually kind of shocking when she woke up and realized that most men, and this, I'm not saying this is good that men have this capacity necessarily. I'm not saying men should be violent against women in any means, but you're saying it was really scary when she realized that most men could kill her without even trying, and she had no means to stop it if she was like trying to protect her life as much as she could, that she wouldn't be able to, that most men could easily just dominate physically without any contest. Now, the reality that extends out of that is that that's why men need to protect women, but she was shocked.
In regards to what you're just saying right now is like, that's why a man, if they're in a confrontation with a woman, it's very, very simple for a man to subdue a woman.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
so
you don't need to
you
hit back.
Have to hit, never
yes.
hit.
You can just grab the arm.
Yeah,
you
so
just hold them, grab the arm, and if they're really going crazy, like just twist the arm and hold them at bay and get them to stop.
Where you guys hang out?
Yeah,
well, I know a little Aikido, so it's even easier for me. So.
Oh no, for a friend. The advantage though is that they apparently find that level of terrifying power attractive, as we saw from last week's video, where that girl's like, "Oh yeah, he drowns her while he does back shots on her."
We were watching a video last week, Chuck, about this woman going through all the books in a literary store that's aimed for women's fiction.
All the horny books.
And it's all these like sexually violent books of where these guys abusing women, and she's into it, and all these other women are into this literature, and it's just like
the bodice rippers. They call them bodice rippers in the 70s. So the thing is that you may be able to subdue a woman, but you got to go to sleep sometime.
Well, look, the adage that what's the old saying that poison is a woman's weapon?
Yeah, somebody said that in the chat.
Or a skillet, or a carving knife. I mean, it could be anything.
Yeah,
there was a character in Columbo where there was Abigail Mitchell, the writer lady, who was like one of my favorite characters, my favorite murderers. Where he goes like, "Oh, it was great when there was back then when they had dueling. That way, after the duel, the problem was over." But that was for our forefathers, not for our foremothers. But fortunately, the women were the cooks, and there's plenty of poison available.
Yeah,
and then there's always that bobbit situation.
Yeah,
yes.
Women on average also
falls under the you have to fall asleep sometime. Yeah.
Women on average also tend to hold grudges so much longer than men, and
that's because they remember every wrong thing you ever did, and they just
have no fury.
I'll have no fury like a woman's drive.
You've done that, right? You get an argument with your wife, and she's just like bringing up like 12 different things. I'm like, I don't remember any of this, and I can't argue with you because I don't think about that stuff.
Well, the answer is that you have to learn to remember that stuff yourself and say, wow, what were you all about?
But it wouldn't make any difference because, I mean, my wife is like, she can remember what we were wearing when I did that stupid thing. And that's like the closer. I remember what we were wearing. Okay, I can't even argue with that. I don't remember what time of year it was. I don't remember anything about it.
So tying this back to, I guess, Claymore is that, so men do express their aggression physically more often. Men will lash out, like when men sometimes really just over the line, they need to go out and hit something. And it's actually a way for men to, sometimes calm down. And that's actually normal. That's fine. It's not like men are inherently violent. In actual fact, you want men to be able to have a capacity for violence. That's a good thing. Okay. They need to then learn. They have a man capable of violence that can keep it in control is an asset to society. And it's important for men to learn that because that's when society is benefited. And this actually comes into a tweet that I bookmarked recently because I actually thought it was put pretty good. Let me quickly.
Is that you have to be violent in order to be meek or something like that?
Kind of.
You have to be it's like Jordan Peterson. It's like you have to have a high capacity for violence in order to be moral. Because a weak man it cannot be a moral man because he has no choice but to be non-violent because he's weak.
Right.
But you have to be a monster, a controlled monster. Batman is that way. That's what he says. He says Batman. Batman is like that.
Here it is. Here it says you can't truly call yourself peaceful unless you're capable of great violence. If you're not capable of violence, you're not peaceful. You're harmless. Important distinction. I found that.
And your hair is blue and you have nose piercings.
Well, this is really intriguing because think about it, right? To be peaceful, all right, if that is to be a true kind of statement, it needs to be a choice. And it can only be a choice if you had the power to choose not to be peaceful, which means the only way to then actually to be truly be peaceful is to have the capacity to be able to do the opposite, to be capable of great violence. I think there is truth in this statement, that this is true, that to be peaceful, you need to be capable of great violence because then you can choose to maintain the peace. And if you don't have the capacity, you're not peaceful, you're harmless. That is intriguing. And I kind of like that, the way that that's put.
The word for that is meekness, right? It's meekness. You've got the power, you've got the strength, you've got all the innate ability, but you withhold yourself, restrain yourself in order to do what's right.
This is literally the main theme of the book I'm currently writing that I've mentioned a couple of times in past streams that I'm having so much fun writing it, and it's getting closer towards completion. It's still a little ways off, but the book's title is, and it'll be released as this, is Of Men and Monsters. And it's literally the story about a young man who wants to become a knight and discovers an insane capacity for violence inside, and that he likes it and it scares him and is worried that he could become a monster if he indulges in it too much. And then it's the journey of him actually finding a way to channel it in the right way and fight real monsters with it. And it's a fun story. And it's one of the themes that I resonate a lot with because I think there's truth to it. And it's something that has been missing, not only been missing in media, been attacked in media for so long, where the natural aggression and strength that men have has been called toxic and just inherently violent. And men need to be told to not be violent. It's like, no. Men need to be told to be violent and to control it and use that violence in the right way.
Like how many videos have you seen where it's like a man with a gun comes in and starts shooting the bad guy? It saves. I've seen a couple of times that happens. The tough guy like stops robbers, takes away the gun, or shoots back. Or there's so many times where male aggression, male capacity for violence, and willingness to engage in violence. That's important too. The willingness to engage in violence, which is like the soy boy types don't really do that unless what they're fighting is like way weaker than them somehow. Like if they're up against a woman. Or if they know that they can't get in trouble, then that's kind of when they fight. But like men will just take action because action is just and justified, usually, like good men.
I honestly can never get enough of those videos of like the protesters when it's like all the soy boys and then the dudes, the bikers just come up just
The soy boy leftist types, they're like that because they have to be. They don't have strength to stand up on their own. They have to be with the collective or a collectivist mindset. They kind of have to be. This is why I think this is exactly why, like, once the election was over, we got to see a bunch of things change overnight, and where like everyone is shrugging off all the wokeness. Like, okay, oh, Trump won. Oh, okay, Google got rid of all the DEI stuff, and all the companies getting rid of DEI stuff. It was fear. Fear was a giant factor in all of this. Everyone is so afraid of being canceled, being destroyed, because the power of the state, the power of the mob, was the power of wokeness, the power of the left. No one was actually on their side. They just terrified people into being on their side.
And this ties into why I think like stories and pop culture is so important, because a lot of these natural truths that we've been talking about are really important to be I guess instilled as what is normal in the minds of children growing up, and it helps make them make good decisions. Like the influence superheroes had on me as a young boy, right, was really like transformative. It made me a better person. I wanted to be like Superman, and inherently, baked into these stories are messages about how to be a man, how to use violence in the right way. Like the concept behind Spider-Man, the core theme, with great power comes great responsibility, is a message to young men about their own inherent strength, and that you need to use it responsibly and for the good, and that you have a duty placed on you as a man to be a virtuous man. And that is one of the most like wholesome and uplifting stories around. And it can have a really deep impact for the good. And that's why, like, making sure these stories get written and told is so important. And why I get annoyed when conservatives just treat pop culture and stuff like that, including video games and all that stuff, with this nose turned up kind of derisive attitude.
It drives me nuts.
I had the same attitude towards everything, because where people dismiss manga, like, oh, manga's I'm above it or whatever. Like, no, I would say that if you're in the venue, if you're in the profession of creation, you're one of the things that you have to do, like a doctor has to keep practice, a lawyer has to keep practice and up to date with the laws. A creator must expand his horizons into different things, and that includes different cultures, different ways you create stories, and different mediums of story. So yeah, you can grow up liking like Western comics, and you can enjoy them. You can enjoy the heroes and how they're structured. But if you're going to be in the creation portion of it all, it's best for you to venture out into different things and look into different cultures, what they're like, what they do, how they make stories, because sometimes it's different. Like the East has a whole different way of perspective of doing making stories than we do, and they have different the 4 chords that they use are different than we do when they make songs. Why you can instantly pick up something as anime music, but
what I find interesting, just on that note, Dev, is that a lot of anime and manga have also very traditional story elements and tropes that are completely recognizable, that speak and resonate to anyone, no matter what culture. Like anime still has positive masculinity depicted, and the dynamics between men and women, reflected really. Like I've mentioned a number of times that one of the more wholesome things I've seen in recent media is Spy X Family, which is all about showing how wholesome and wonderful family, the common nuclear family is. That you have this assassin, this spy, going into a fake family and realizing how truly wholesome and wonderful it is. And
the idea is like this is way better.
Yeah, like this is what life should be like.
What's his name? The spy using his skills for his family rather than just the government, and then Yor using her skills to protect the family rather than just to kill nameless people. Like, it's way more fulfilling and way better.
And so, look, this bothered me when I saw this, because Matt Walsh has done some really good things. I'm definitely going to give credit to the guy, but he constantly shoots himself in the foot with stupid takes like this. I have to say.
Hey, real quick, Shad. Chuck, I told you it was only 2 hours. Do you have to get going, or are you?
I can hang on a little bit. I'll talk about Matt Walsh.
Right.
and I have some insight into the right rejecting culture. First of all.
Please, by all means. It drives me freaking batty.
Oh yeah.
So this tweet, clip ran around Twitter, right? And it is a guy achieving something that is genuinely impressive. So check him out, right? Screen prompts.
What a nerd.
Look how crazy talented this is, and the amount of practice that would be required to achieve it, right? This is genuinely amazing. He's going nuts. The fact that he's nailing everything, right? And Matt, he comes in and he says, why not spend that time learning how to play an actual guitar? And I'm like,
that's dumb, Dad. That's literally a joke in South Park where they're all playing Guitar Hero and Randy comes in there who actually knows how to play a guitar and they all dunk on him for playing an actual guitar because that's for nerds.
But like, Matt,
I bet you this kid actually does play the guitar.
Has he ever said this to sports fans watching a sports game? Why don't you spend that time learning to actually play the game or do the game? Why are you just sitting there watching? What ticks me off so much is like they have this kind of negative judgmental attitude to video games, yet they give so many things that are completely equivalent to it and sometimes even less productive, like just watching TV. You're achieving nothing if it's not educational, not gaining anything. Granted, if it's an uplifting show, like there is actual achievement in just relaxing, but there's actually less interaction in just sitting on your butt watching TV than what this guy has been doing here, right? And they'll ignore all these other things because video games are for kids or something like that. Just, man, it just...
Yeah, but that kid looks like he's going to go open up on a school.
It's judgmental.
He spent 9 months and 50,000 attempts to do that. And he, I mean, look at his face. He looks like he's going to go dress up like
he's
Neo.
Focusing. No, he's focusing, Daddy.
No.
Look at it. He's in a flow state of consciousness where it's just he is one with the Guitar Hero, and he's
the funny thing is he actually wrote all that stuff on his wall, and it's about this kid at school.
This is like an achievement where, he has achieved a state of focus where the world does not exist, and he is just performing excellence right here. And you need that level of focus because look how crazy this is.
It is insane. It's impressive.
It's impressive.
Yeah, I did a local comic show recently, and two of the guests were guys who had mastered 80s arcade games. Like they could consistently always win these arcade games. And that was like their party trick. And that's what they did. Mm-hmm. And people, I was surprised. People showed up to talk to them and have them sign T-shirts and things like that. I mean, it's like these tournaments where you watch another guy play a video game.
But the thing is, though, if you wanted to try and actually break down what type of benefit he would get out of this type of stuff, it's like he is he's training his brain to a level of focus which few people can even approach. Okay, and so this is a very significant mental exercise that is engaging with, let alone training hand-eye coordination to a crazy level. And that can look, there are like tangential kind of skills and things where this level of training will actually be beneficial and help out more so than just sitting on your butt watching a TV show or something like that, or a sports game. Are there more productive things you could do outside of that? Yeah, but that applies to everything. Okay, there's probably always something more productive you can do.
What is doing? Helping the orphans or giving blood? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
this is what this guy likes. This is what, I mean, I like Matt Walsh. I watch Matt Walsh. I enjoy his perspective, but I don't always agree with him. I mean, his view of American history is simplistic. It drives me out of my mind. And his dismal view of pop culture in general. He has like an old man's point of view, and I'm an old man. I'm not that bitter about pop culture. I understand why things are going the way they're going and why kids like what they like and leave them alone. It's a passing thing. My kids watch Fraggle Rock. They don't watch it anymore. They're grown men.
That was a good show.
Let it go.
That was a good kid show. I like that.
I'm not saying anything against Fraggle Rock. It's just if I had a 32-year-old home watching Fraggle Rock, I'd be worried.
Yeah, definitely.
Of course.
There was a Bill Hicks joke.
How old are you? Because I watched Fraggle Rock.
71 next month.
Oh my gosh! All right.
Yeah.
So you're
What was it?
I'm officially that guy on the porch. Get off my lawn.
But the thing is, though,
you
Chuck,
have
you've
kids.
literally
How old's your oldest?
32. I got a
Oh, okay.
32-year-old and a 28-year-old.
Wow.
It's like my age.
But
Yeah.
like Chuck, you've literally had a hand in making pop culture, actively, and you know, like traditionally classic action kind of stories that you know young guys like and everything. And it's clear that you know you have an insight as to why this is important, why you know it's helpful and beneficial.
Well,
Yeah,
there's
well,
let's see.
You know, particularly from the right. I mean, I did a book called Clinton Cash. It was a adaptation of the Peter Schweitzer exposure of the Clinton Foundation. I did a graphic novel of it. And it was #1 on Amazon for 3 days. And first of all, it was like pulling teeth to get the money out of the people funding it. And then it was pulling teeth to get the publisher to market it. It's like they had this property that obviously people liked because with very little promotion, it reached #1 for 3 days. And they could have kept that going, but they didn't because they didn't understand this is important.
Yeah.
And when we're done selling this one, we're going to do the next Schweitzer book. And he wanted us to do all of his books and graphic novels. And they, you know, he would have had a bookshelf of these damn things and we could have made a lot of money, but they just don't get it. They don't get, you know, you have to participate in you can't just sit back and complain about it. You've got to participate in it.
I remember that being advertised. I remember about in your interview with the Milo Yiannopoulos thing. Like, wow, that's interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Just like on that, because if you don't take a part in it, right, you just cede that ground to the left and let them try it. And this stuff literally does influence children. Okay. This is the stuff that they want to consume. And the left knows that, which is why they've been desperate to inject their political agenda into children's media. 100%. And so, look, I want to highlight this comment when someone's saying, trolling your own base is retarded. That was in response to this one saying, in Matt's defense is literally trolling. Is like, this is not a defense. I'm sorry, right? This literally harms. If you want people to adopt traditional values, even conservatism, and like conservatism is a loaded term because it can mean different things with different countries and other things. And so I call myself a conservative, yet that might not align with what people interpret that as, right? I'm a very traditional values person. I'm a very devout, you know, Christian Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, right? And all those values are very important to me. They've blessed my life tremendously. And I think it's really good for other people to adopt those values as well. And if that means adopting conservatism, yes, right? And if that is what Matt wants, right? His supposed trolling is doing the exact opposite. Okay. If Matt wants people to hear his actual good opinions, and he has good opinions, he does good work, retarded comments like that encourage people who are kind of on the fence or looking from the outside in to disregard everything else he says. Okay. It's such a dumb thing to do. And I actually don't think it's trolling. I think he's uses that as a bit of a deflection and excuse to try and not get, you know, as much heat for his real opinions.
The irony of this is he doesn't seem to care. He pretends like he doesn't seem to care or understand about this media stuff, but he's made some of the biggest media event pieces.
Yeah.
What is a woman and what's the other one?
Yeah.
Right?
Am I racist?
Yeah.
Those are good works. And when he just constantly craps on video games and pop culture and anime and other things like that, even if you try to say it in jest, no, he's literally harming his own kind of you know, ability for people to reach people, right?
And he's also he's part of. I'll say it. He's part of the only segment on the right that is actively trying to be part of the pop culture. I mean, Daily Wire makes movies, and they don't make the usual, you know, pablum that right organizations or Christian organizations make. They actually make some interesting stuff.
Right.
They are trying to get into the space there. So, you know, why he says these things, especially about things he doesn't matter. I mean, you went on about Wheel of Time because you really care about Wheel of Time.
Yes.
This guy doesn't care about Guitar Hero or what's the other one? Sonic the Groundhog 3 went on for 30 minutes about Sonic. He doesn't care, so why even talk about it? I mean, I don't talk about crap I don't like.
Exactly. And if it's just to piss people off, It's like, okay, you're achieving that, and it's going to have the really, negative effect on people taking you seriously, wanting to listen to you, because it just puts people who like this type of pop culture stuff, makes them think that you're an idiot, that you don't know what you're talking about, that you're judging them for their own personal interests and hobbies, which are completely equivalent to things that he gives a complete pass to. Like, when he comparing this to the Guitar Hero thing to actually learning real guitar, okay? Yeah. And why does knowing how to play guitar, why is that inherently a better thing to produce music than being good at a video game inherently? To someone who appreciates musical guitar, it would mean more to them. But if someone doesn't care and likes video games, interestingly, people who like video games would look at this as more of an achievement than someone who knows how to play guitar, because they understand that kind of whole world. And one,
well, I think in a sense is because a guitar lends to being creative, and a video games is just doing something by rote, or that kind of game, or Mario Brothers, where you're just doing a pattern and you're trying to master the pattern.
Yeah,
but that's what guitar is.
He has a point about it,
but that's what guitar is for most people. It's just following a pattern. Most guitar people who play guitar don't write guitar music. It's literally just learning a pattern. And if it's about
there's interpretation. I mean, I see what he's saying, but why weigh in on this? If you don't care, if people are going, "Wow, that's amazing! This guy's great," and you're like, "I don't think he's so great." And it's like you're not going to make any friends doing that.
Well, there's that, but I actually
missing greatness is
okay
for no reason. Yeah,
if you're looking at the purpose of what it is to learn how to play guitar, right? If it's to the training or the mental exercise, I think what this guy is doing is actually equivalent to that, maybe even more mentally demanding. If it's about entertaining people because you're producing music, this guy is live streaming this to heaps of people that are really impressed and entertained by it. And so that's equivalent. Like, I think it's basically based on what people value more. And people who don't value video games will think it's more productive a pursuit to learn guitar. And people who value video games think it's better for video games. And I think they're quite equivalent, in all honesty. It's just based on
my philosophy is if this is what you like, here's more of what you like.
Exactly.
If you don't like it, don't watch it.
Yep. That's basically how I'm seeing it as too. And then judging people for it, it's just like, that's just going to piss off everyone who likes that type of stuff and turn them against you. And like, if you want the conservative movement, or just how about just traditional values to be spread, this is what are some of the dumbest things. You're shooting yourself in your foot with this type of stuff. And Matt does it regularly and consistently. This is why I don't think it's a troll, because I think he actually just looks down on this stuff and doesn't think it's good for people.
Well, it's part of his shtick.
Yeah. And here's the thing, right? I'm not saying people can't play video games to excess. Of course they can. Just like you can do anything to excess. There's people who are so obsessed with sports where they spend crazy amounts of money on it. They literally drive themselves bankrupt by betting and gambling on it. They buy all the paraphernalia and their whole lives are obsessed with sports. Clearly, anything can be taken to excess in a negative way, but then to throw the interest in it broadly under the bus because it can be abused or misused is obviously not true. It's like, how about no, take it in moderation, because obviously video game addiction can be a problem. 100%. I'm not saying it isn't, but if Matt Walsh is wanting to address those concerns, this is not the way to go about it. Don't try and tell them that, anime's of the devil and play it off. It's like a joke, or constantly crap on like video games or things like this, deriding it as something silly that you should be doing something more productive. Like, that is not achieving what you want. If your concern is actually the misuse of these things, how about you actually talk openly and honestly? And I think it would come better from someone who does enjoy this stuff. And Matt, because he's not involved in it, it's better that he would just shut up on it, because when he tries to talk about it, he misses the mark so much.
I guess I'm the freaking curmudgeon here, because I agree. I'm like, learn to play the guitar.
Yeah, no, I agree too. There would be a lot more value with learning to play the guitar.
Well, see, again, I think that's coming from a subjective perspective of what you value. Like, because I love video games, I see them more as equivalent. But look, I understand.
I just, there's things people like that I don't understand, but I'm like, well, if you like that, I mean, I'm not going to say you can't do it, or I think it's. I mean, skateboarding. I mean, skateboarding in a pool for hours and hours and hours and hours it makes absolutely no sense to me. But hey, if you dig it, and that's where.
Well, here's the thing. I'm like that with sports. I find the over obsession of watching sports, watching people chase an inflated skin of something around.
Yeah, but I bet Matt Walsh loves it.
He probably loves it.
I never really liked watching sports. I'm like playing them.
Yes, I'm the same. I have a black belt in kickboxing, and so I like participating. I don't really like watching much.
I love watching sports movies.
Yes,
they can be fun.
If there's a fight on, I'll watch that. I prefer good old fisticuffs. That's what I like. Boxing, MMA. That's kind of what I like to see.
But I have that kind of same thing where I actually I've had to stop myself in the past from looking down like sports. You're just watching, but it's like that's someone's interest. Oh, power to them. I like video games, and people look the same.
I'm not a sports guy. I've never gone into watching on TV or anything like that. But if someone says, "Hey, we're going to the hockey game that you want to go," I'm like, yeah, that's a cool experience. It's a great communal experience to watch with a crowd. Go to a baseball game or whatever. But well,
not baseball. Like watching grass grow.
Well, when you go to see baseball, you catch up with old friends.
You think you're there for the beer, the hot dogs, and your friends, right?
Conversation.
Try cricket. Holy crap! It's the most boring game. And I'm an Australian, and I'm saying that.
No one has that much time.
No, but hockey, you can't even have a conversation during hockey because you're
no.
What's going on? Who's going to beat up who now? Hockey's pretty much just going to a fight. I mean,
the game breaks out.
But this whole thing reminds me of a quote by Hirohiko Araki, the guy who made JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. He had a lot of great quotes in his book, but one thing he mentioned was never to look over the value of something, like never overlook it. Like if you think something is too popular, it has no reason being popular. Well, instead of going, oh, that's dumb, like a lot of people, like a lot of Redditors or whatever like to do, like, oh, it's overrated. That's dumb. Why'd you put so much effort into that? It's like, well, why is it popular? He tells you to ask instead, why is it popular? What do people like about it? There has to be something that gets right on the money as to why it's popular. I mean, if it's organically popular. Of course, today we have it's popular because they pumped a bunch of money and marketing into it, and therefore it's artificially popular. So it does, of course, exist. But if it's organically popular, and you're like, why is this popular? What's so valuable about this property that resonated with a bunch of people? Like,
is that why he put his characters in banana hammocks?
Yeah, obviously. Actually, he explained that the reason why he noted that in order to get to people's attention, it's like you have to be bizarre, and that's why he's calling it Bizarre Adventure.
I mean, it's a great show. I'm not.
There's
a lot of stuff that just looks really gay, but
you might dunk on it. But you remember it, right? He's like, hey, that's JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. You remember the thing? It sticks in your brain.
Well, it's not only why is it popular? Who is it popular with? And a lot of times, there's your answer.
Know your audience.
Popular with the audience kind of explains why it's popular.
All righty, let's wrap up the last super chats and then close out. This has been a great stream, Chuck. Thank you so much for joining us, mate.
Sure thing. Thanks for having me.
So Dawnbreaker $5 says, I don't know what the hell YouTube is thinking the last few weeks, but they've made the app almost non-usable. Absolutely.
Dude, on my
everything up.
Computer too. My computer is just like glitching out on YouTube. I don't know what's going on.
That's a rabbit hole. YouTube has been just ruining so much in this year, especially, and last year. I don't know what they're doing at this point. But I agree. Devint for $20 says, I only read 2 books of the Wheel of Time, but I'm disappointed at Amazon's adaptation. Rand and Matt's walking the Camelin Road was the most intense chapters. Could have depicted a whole episode to those chapters. Wasted opportunity. 100%. Like there are great moments in book 1 where you could devote whole episodes to, but no, they decided to cut that and make up their own bullcrap, inject their own stories of a gay character. Well,
they're correcting the wrongs of the anime, Shad, as they say with Cowboy Bebop. We're correcting the wrongs of the anime.
Get me started. Sneaky Schnack for $5 says, this is why the side scrollers Montez clip is so satisfying. I don't know the clip. but I'd have to look it up. Cheers, thank you for the super chat. Buddy Rap for $5 says, yeah, that's fascinating and all, but cross-gender sports, right, guys? Right? Next civil rights frontier. Let's go.
I'm sorry, but there's only 2 genders.
Now the policy.
There's a reason. There's a reason why men and women compete in separate fields.
Right.
Yeah.
Remember that whole Title IX thing?
Yeah. What was that about?
Bunch of sexist women.
Rome never to be seen for $5 says, hell hath no fury who thinks she's been scorned.
That's definitely true. In fact, that's probably the actual truth 90% of the time.
Yeah.
Like a perceived slight rather than actual slight. Yeah.
Did you ever have to explain what you were doing in her dream?
Yeah.
He wakes up and hits you.
Yeah.
That's
I'm always
happened
the
before.
louse in my wife's dream.
Body Rap for $10 says, Matt Walsh was the youngest man trying to be an actual boomer. His contention is that we should be smoking cigars in our loafers after working ourselves into the grave and think about Rome.
Well, I like most of that. I like smoking cigars. And,
I have nothing against that inherently. I mean, I don't smoke, but the issue, Matt's actually younger than me, which surprised me because he acts like, again, he puts on such a boomer, presentation. Because he does try to, it seems like he tries to act like an old man.
He's more boomer than me.
Yeah, right.
He's trying to bring boomer mainstream.
Mm-hmm. For an employee working for a company allegedly based in the Breitbart's observation that politics are downstream of culture, the man has zero cultural awareness. How's Daily Wire doing these days? Oh, and
see, that's where Breitbart only got it half right. Politics is downstream from culture, but culture is downstream from media. So if you give up the media, you've lost the culture, and then you lose the politics.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Here's the thing. What I wanted to suggest to Daily Wire, because they're doing all these. They're trying to be like the new Hollywood, trying to produce these movies. And I guess the one with Gina Carano was good. I didn't watch that one, but Lady Ballers was just basically just like a Steven Crowder skit or whatever. Like it's been terrible.
I hope because they're one that's coming out. The Pendragon Cycles. I hope it's good. I want it to be good. I wish them luck with it. Sorry, but yeah, go Liv.
They got to stop dunking on dunking on wokeness and actually produce good stuff. And one thing I want them to do, I think it'd be brilliant. It would fit every single criteria they want to fit, is to bring back the old show Celebrity Deathmatch, because then you can be entertained. You can make fun of celebrities. It's perfect. Right. It fits everything they want to do. They can have Gina Carano beat up the one lesbian. What's her name? She hates Trump.
Rosie O'Donnell. I don't know.
Rosie O'Donnell. That's like Rosie O'Donnell.
Oh, I picked it. There we go.
You could have Gina Carano fight Rosie O'Donnell in a cage match to the death, and it'll be pretty hilarious. You could do that. You could do that. It'd be fun, entertaining, gory. It'll be very attractive to a large audience, because that was a really good show back in the day, and it won't be nearly as cringe as a Steven Crowder skit Lady Baller thing or whatever. So you could actually get an actual audience.
I heard Lady Ballers was average, which is a pity. It's rife for comedy, that concept.
It could have been great. It could have been like a gold mine.
Mario Trujillo. Did I say that right that time? I think I did.
Trujillo.
Okay. I tried. Sorry, mate. $5 says, beware of snakes in the garden. Walsh is a snake who would happily see the rest of the world burn as long as he got paid. I don't know about that. He's made good stuff.
I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah. He's made good stuff.
I wish I could see Matt Walsh like encountering the snake and telling him he's a nerd. That's about it.
Why don't you go away?
But Matt's comment. But the thing is, though, it's Matt's comments like that causes reactions like what Mario has. He shoots himself in the foot, and it just makes people not want to listen to him. And if he's determined in trying to be a positive influence and try and change culture, mate, you're really saying some dumb things sometimes. Kenpachi Matsudia for $2 says, as someone with blue hair, left makes me mad. Lol. Reclaim the blue hair. Kenpachi. Kenpachi. I think that's it. Sorry.
As someone who grew up in the 90s, I used to like blue hair and green hair. I used to like that. Actually,
dude, the main character of my novel literally has blue hair.
Hey, when blue hair was punk rock and not freaking SJW.
Yeah, when it was rebels. When it was rebels instead of the conformist worship the government kind of person. But yeah,
you wanted blue hair because you wanted to piss off your parents because they got divorced. That's when blue hair was cool. Hey,
that's what I like.
Celebrity Deathmatch is MTV Paramount. You know anybody over there?
Oh yeah, wow, that could be done. That could be done.
That'd be a fun comic book, dude. That would be a fun comic book.
I think bringing back Celebrity Deathmatch would be a gold mine today.
Sure,
Wow.
sure, absolutely.
So, Dry-Fi donates 100 Canadian, dude,
Whoa.
and he says, "Cheers, Shad, mate.
Wow.
Cheers back to you. Thank you
I like
very
that
much."
It's St. Patty's Day. It's St.
That is-
Patty's Day.
Yeah.
That is very generous. Appreciate you, mate.
They watch
And,
Boondock Saints.
And Snickery Schnack for $5 says, "A woman slaps a man, then receives a body to back suplex followed by being transferred to a video game clip." It's like, women, yeah, you got to be careful. Like, again, women shouldn't hit men generally, but also for your own safety. If you hit a man that is less restrained, it never ends well for the woman. By any means. That's the whole that's the lie feminism is really sold women. Is like, you can protect yourself just fine, you know, you're just as strong as a man. And also the action movies which make these women like indomitable badasses, all right, help propagate a lie.
Yeah.
And if women buy into it and then try and act it out in the real world, they end up getting injured really badly as a result, because reality can come hit them quite hard. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm just saying this is what happens.
Yeah.
There we go. We are up to date with the super chats, and thank you everyone for joining us. And Chuck, once again, thank you for joining us. Is there anything you want to mention?
Let's show off his book one more time.
Yeah, check it out right there.
All right, Chuck, 30 seconds. Go.
What? Zaylen, you want it. You need it. If you're a Rippaverse fan, you got to have it, because it turns out it's an important part of the story ongoing. So go get
awesome. That is
go
great.
see a working man. See it with someone you love.
Yeah. When is that
You
coming
know what?
out?
Bring your whole church to see Working Man.
March 28th. Comes out March
28th.
Let's do it.
That I'm ready to go see. I'm ready to go see Working Man.
Yeah.
Awesome. Mike, anything you want to mention as we
Oh yeah, you know what? Me and a few friends are doing a live art auction on Friday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9 o'clock Eastern. So come on by if you want to save your pennies and get some cool original art. There will be art from myself, obviously, and several of my artist friends, and I'm being redundant, but just come on by. Blacklist Universe, that's the channel. Subscribe to these guys, do all that stuff.
All right.
I'm done.
And Lit Dev, glad you're able to join us, mate.
Yeah, just some stuff happening, but I managed to make it. Glad I could make it.
Awesome. Anything you want to mention as we sign off?
Just usually my usual morning stream so far. I'm still working on some videos and everything, and working on my own book in the background. Brand new one, murder mystery, occult murder mystery kind of thing. Working there for 6 months. I blinked and 6 months of my life were gone. I was like, what the hell?
That's novel writing.
It certainly is. Like, oh man. So I gotta get back into it. I try to get back into it. But for now, what I do every day is my morning nonsense stream starts at 8:35 Eastern AM. So check it out. Have some fun.
Awesome. And, everyone knows where I'm at. Thank you for everyone joining us here on the Culture Crusade. We appreciate you all, and we'll see you next time. So as always, stay on watch. See you later.